We are live. Tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Today we have another very special episode. We have the 1995 movie Johnny Mnemonic
Yes.
in black and white.
Yes.
Which you can't stream this. This is only available on a Blu-ray.
Yep.
This is a special edition of Johnny Mnemonic where it's just literally in black and white.
And I thought when I was watching it, it was like, oh, this is like Alphaville. I thought that was like an internal joke. I was like, okay. And then I read like, oh yeah, one of the inspirations for making the movie originally, not in black and white, was like Alphaville. I was like, oh wow, so now it actually kind of looks like that too.
Yeah. Nathan, do you have a history of Johnny Mnemonic?
I do. I saw this in theaters with my then girlfriend, now wife, and
your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. She became something else.
Now she's your wife, but she was your girlfriend.
Well, she almost became my ex-girlfriend because I took her to see this movie. You gotta understand, my wife does not like science fiction. She doesn't share any of the interests I do when it comes to that. And taking her to see this, and by the way, I was fooled by the advertising. I thought, well, this will be cool. This is the guy from Speed. It's like, this will be good. And you also got to remember that the barrage of advertising that went on around this before it came out was like, this has got to be a good movie. They're spending like $20 million to advertise this thing.
Yeah, I remember there was like an MTV special, which is like an hour special, like about this movie and what it means to the world and all that stuff. Apparently, this opened against Die Hard with a Vengeance and Batman Forever. So,
and it was supposed to be a winter release.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a weird February release, but who was it? Paramount, I think. This is ultimately releases under Sony Pictures, but maybe at the time it was Paramount or something.
Yeah.
I forget who it was. Anyways, their summer film was in the dumps and it wasn't going to get finished. I don't even know if it did get finished because it was like
Mary Riley film.
Yeah, I don't know if that ever got made. So yeah, they just swapped positions with it, and then basically like that put an unwelcome pressure on this film, and a lot of producers coming in trying to make the most generic thing they could sell. From a William Gibson novel and a screenplay written by William Gibson.
Yeah, well, this isn't even a William Gibson novel. This is a very short story from the Burning Chrome collection of William Gibson short stories. I forget how long. I think it is actually 15 pages. I read it.
I want to say it's more than that. Let's see if it's in my... Because I rented it from the online archive, or archive.org.
Oh, okay.
I meant to read it, but I ran out of time because I read too slow.
I just did a PDF thing of it. I mean, I actually, no, I didn't. I have it on Kindle. I have Burning Chrome on Kindle, so I just looked at it that way.
Let's see here. Because this is just a photocopy of one of the editions of the book. What the hell? Open it up. This is unnecessary, time wasted, but we're gonna do it.
Yeah, it's important because we're gonna reference this story a lot as we watch this and talk about the movie.
Let's see here. It starts on page 14. It ends on page 36. So 22 pages.
22 pages. Okay.
So yeah, pretty short.
22 pages of William Gibson dialogue. I understand. Remember, did we read Neuromancer together to talk about?
That one I attempted to read, but I could not read it fast enough, and I heard the audio book version of it is terrible, so I avoided that, and like I just couldn't get through. It was too densely, like, I liked it. It's like, this is cool prose. This doesn't, but it doesn't, like, and it gives me lots of visual imagery, but like a story didn't pop from all that nonsense. So
yeah,
I did not enjoy Neuromancer like everybody else apparently did. So
the 225-page book, if you can believe that. It is, yeah. It's William Gibson writing is chewy. There is no speed reading William Gibson. You can't just be like, because a lot of things I can read very fast, can't read William Gibson
No,
very
it's its own language.
yeah,
and
and they are throwing
it doesn't
jargon
it doesn't explain
concepts.
itself either.
No, they are throwing jargon and concepts at you and concept jargon, acronym speak, and all this, and they're giving you no reference to like
No.
everyone has this and it's killing the world. And it's the most important shit ever, and it sounds computery and fantastical. I mean, the end stories are. I've read a lot of William Gibson. It's all pretty satisfying, but man, does that guy love chewy prose? Oh my god.
And so much stuff he came up with just got inserted into the tech culture because they didn't. It's like, oh, it's that thing from the William Gibson novel.
Yeah, yeah.
Because William Gibson is like, what if you applied technology to every part of your body? Then what would happen? What would it be called?
Yeah.
There's even an iPhone in this movie.
Yeah.
It's not what you think it is, but it is called an iPhone. um. Yes, yeah, this yeah, it came out May 26, 1995, so yeah, early kind of summer release. I mean, not really summer, but close enough. May, June, July, it's around there. Yeah, I don't know. When does summer technically start? Is it like mid-June or some shit like that?
June 1st for me.
Okay.
What is it like? It's Memorial Day to Labor Day. That's summer.
I can't remember.
And then sometimes you have the weird 90-degree Halloweens occasionally where
Yeah.
it's like, is the world dying? And then it doesn't happen again for 15 years. Okay.
That's all context. Dying for who?
Yeah.
It's
I just
fine for the
remember
Earth. It's
I
not
remember
fine
one
for
year
life
we
on.
had one of those when the boys were real little and they had those stormtrooper costumes. We had some hot stormtroopers. Yeah, those kids lost 15 pounds going trick or treating that year.
This is directed by Robert Longo, his first and last movie. So I'll just
Yeah,
tell you how well this did.
yeah, that's well, and it's also his experience in making this was like, I don't ever want to do this again.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like the stuff I saw, it's like his most famous stuff was in the 80s. It was called like Men in the Cities, where he took like, he had his friends and they like in New York taking pictures of them in business suits, and they would like lurch forward or do some weird motion, and he would capture that motion and then project it on the wall and then do like a black and white drawing of it. And this was
Okay.
apparently like super famous. um, yeah, and so like he's naturally good with black and white drawings and stuff like that. So that's why this makes more of a sense when you just throw it in black and white and why he'd have. But essentially he's just an artist, like a
Yeah, he's more like he struck me as more of like a he's directed some music videos, but it's done in an extremely like, okay, this guy, style of like, okay, yeah.
But also he seems to have a lot of rich friends because like anytime you say someone's an artist, it's like, oh, so they're poor. But like this guy doesn't seem poor, so I don't know what's going on with
No one with a name like Robert Longo is ever going to be poor. That guy has a name that sounds like the bad guy from an Elmore Leonard novel. And this is just too cool a name. You're going to walk through life real nice, easy path if you have a name like Robert Longo.
Robert Longo. He's my favorite admiral that got killed by Darth Vader.
Yeah, yeah.
Cinematographer is Francois Protat. I'm gonna say that's how you say it. Francis Protat.
Yeah.
Which I guess he didn't. This wasn't Robert Longo, one of the guys who shot Raging Bull, but because they shot this in Canada, they had to hire a Canadian DP. So
Yeah.
they got the guy who was French Canadian, and his biggest movie credit is he shot Weekend at Bernie's. So
Yeah.
to hear Robert Longo talk about it, he was a hassle to work with. So he did not help this movie. Apparently, is all. It's all
No,
Robert Longo.
didn't have much good to say. Didn't really have much to say. I mean, there's so many like what ifs with this movie because not only did because and a lot of this stuff switched to like Canada too because it was because the original budget they wanted to make a weird arty film for like 1.2 million dollars.
Yeah.
But they found out it was a lot easier to get $30 million than to get 1.2. And because I guess Keanu Reeves is Canadian. I don't know. I didn't know he was, but I guess that helped too.
Maybe I
So
guess.
they could get more filming because originally who was supposed to play Johnny Mnemonic? It was Val Kilmer was ready to go, but because the shooting and the starting on this got so delayed that he had to drop out. So that would have been an interesting Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer. Um,
Yeah, Val he's a good actor. Can be. Can also
yeah,
be insane. I mean, he did Batman Forever this year, and I remember liking that as a kid. The last time I saw it, I was like, "Oh, this is a really bad movie."
yeah, not the best time for Batman.
Although I hear people are just kind of into it now because, like, it's like I liked Batman Forever when I was a kid, but I remember like nobody liked Batman and Robin, and now that's just have a
No,
and now that's just have a that's had a weird turn on it where now you can watch it with absolutely no expectation and just enjoy a goofy, extravagant
yeah,
movie. um,
yeah. The what's the guy's name? The actor.
George Clooney.
Yeah, the George Clooney era of Batman was like that was the most over the top, insane, but not necessarily in a good way.
No,
It was almost like if they were directing the movies as some kind of strange comedy.
yeah.
It's like Mel Brooks does Batman, or it's so weird. Oh, it's so weird. It's so odd.
This is written by William Gibson. He based on his own story, which,
Yep.
from what I read of the story, is like this is pretty different. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of. I mean, it's a short story, but like a lot of like the tent poles here are a bit different from the movie here.
Yeah. Core concepts the same. A lot of the characters are present.
Yeah,
Just a lot of them are yeah, a lot of things act.
and isn't it, and then I saw Molly Millions. Isn't she a character in multiple novels?
Yeah,
Uh,
she's from
is she from Neuromancer?
yeah, she's in I think she's in the whole Sprawl trilogy, I think.
Okay,
I'm not sure, but yeah, I think she's in yeah, I know she's in Neuromancer, and I think she's in Count Zero too. I don't know if she's
okay.
in Mona Lisa Overdrive because those are like a 15-year arc there. And it's
So
been a
that,
while since I read those.
but yeah, she's not in the movie of this, so I don't know. I was curious about what that decision was, unless they like, wow, we don't own the character rights to Molly Millions anymore.
Yeah, that's actually they didn't. Somebody else did.
Oh, okay.
Because Neuromancer has been optioned by 4 different studios at one time or another. Everyone was like, "We're making a movie. We're making a movie." HBO Max was gonna.
Oh
It's like
yeah,
we're gonna
it's
do Sprawl, and it's like never happens.
okay. That's what I was like. It's never been made, right? So
No,
okay.
no, no, no. It's been optioned a bunch. Everyone. Well, it's one of those books. Everyone reads it and they love it, and it's like this is cool. But now it's approaching this kind of time where it's like you would have to make it. It would be like it'd be like do androids dream of electric sheet versus Blade Runner at this point. It would be so different if you made it now. The basic concepts could be there, but it's like yeah, it's kind of outgrown itself as a straight adaptation. So
Cast was Keanu Reeves, Dolph Lundgren, and Dina Meyer. That's, uh, yeah,
she
wouldn't
was a
say.
love interest in Starship Troopers, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I remember her from.
She's pretty much a B-level movie actress, but has showed up in a lot of kind of famous movies, I guess.
She tries hard. You always
Yeah.
want to believe her. It's like I kind of like this chick being around.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, well, yeah, like it's almost extra sad because like in Starship Troopers, it's like it's basically her versus what's her name? uh,
The really hot chick. I'm gonna have to go to Starship Troopers.
yeah.
Okay.
Denise Richards.
Yeah, I was gonna say the insanely hot Denise Richards.
And in that movie, they basically like, okay, they're basically opposed to like, she really loves Johnny and Denise doesn't, but Johnny's in love with her, and the whole love triangle stuff. And so even though it's like, well, Denise Richards hotter, but I like Dina Meyer more, but also they're both bad actors, but you like Dina Meyer and you don't like Denise Richards.
Yeah. Dina Myers is trying very hard. She is like putting it all out there. She's not Daniel Day-Lewis. Got that.
And Denise Richards is kind of being seemingly handed a full deck of cards without earning it.
Yep. So who do we want in the movie? The hottest girl in the world. Okay, we got that. Can she act? Doesn't matter. We'll just move the camera around.
We checked one box. We're on to the next thing.
Yeah. You can't, hey, no one, in character creation, nobody gets an appearance of 10 and a charisma of 10. It's just the character would be out of balance. So
I don't know who'd be close to that. Would that be like Angelina Jolie? She's the closest to being the best actor and one of the most beautiful women.
no, for me it would be like Sigourney Weaver.
Okay.
But that's just because I have like I like oh, she's 6 foot tall. That's cool. She acts like she's in charge and she knows what she's doing, but she's still a woman at the same time. Like, well, that's great. That's why I like her. I mainly like her from Alien.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, she was the perfect like because now they try to shove that stuff in there, and she like it just walked right in with that story. It's like I believe her. I like the character, and also like I think like as a person, she's like super intelligent too, and that comes through in her acting. So it's like, oh yeah, that's a whole pattern. Like you'd want to have a conversation with this person. Like if you met them, they would be the most interesting person you met that day. So, but yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. I mean, if you're just basing it on T and A and perfect facial symmetry, it's like no, probably not. But a lot of those people are like, yeah, they just look beautiful in front of the camera, and it's like, yeah, if you met them, it'd be like talking to a cardboard cutout of them. It's not that interesting. They haven't had to try. Sigourney Weaver was told, "You'll never be an actress. You're terrible at acting. You're too tall. Your shoulders are too broad. Get the hell out of here." And she's like, "Nope, I'm gonna keep acting."
Didn't Ridley Scott just tell her that?
No.
Or was he the only one that believed in her?
No, Ridley Scott saw this thing he liked with her because it was supposed to be like two male leads, and he's like, "No, I really like her, and she really comes across as a strong person." It was her professor at college.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Basically said it's like you're like a female basketball player that wants to be like a leading lady. Never going to happen for you. Get out. And then he got fired, and she stayed and graduated. So I was like, fuck you, but yeah.
It's great. There's on AEW. There's a wrestler. She's like had a gimmick change because she did have the title for a while there, but then she lost it, and so now her new gimmick is that like she was supposed to be like, she's just a bad guy and they're spray painting loser on people after they beat him in the ring, and now she's doing like this like Marilyn Monroe like starlet thing where she's like losing her mind, but like she's like throwing her shoes at people and stuff, and then like she's doing like very platinum blonde, and then she's talking like kind of eloquently. She has her own catchphrase of like chin up, tits out.
Nice. Okay. You use what God gave you.
And then she like the recent match because now they've given a name to the gimmick as Timeless Tony Storm. And so she comes out and like they broadcast it in like black and white and do it like kind of in like a weird slow motion kind of thing. And then they get to the match, and then she's doing stuff where like, because it's a women's match, so it's always going to be interrupted by a commercial because that's just they give all the women's match like the shittiest spots in the show because the ratings typically dive, and it's like, I wonder what. Yeah, that'll happen if you don't give the women a chance. But anyway, so she like looked in the camera. And it's
weird
like,
to me because like, I want to see women.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
It's like she like like beat up her opponent, threw her outside, and then she looked in the camera. It's like, I'll be right back after these sponsors.
Nice. Brought to you by Alcoa.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's doing that thing, and then she did something where like she did like she's like doing like this, and then the camera like zooms in on her. It's like, my close up, and then she does her big move, which is where she just dives ass first into this lady's face.
Nice.
Which they call it the hip attack, but then somebody renamed it as sweet cheek music.
Nice.
Because there's a famous move called sweet chin music where you kick somebody in the chin, so that this is sweet cheek music.
I like this one better.
But now I think they're gonna give it like a third name, or like the close up. I think.
Oh, they're just moving into triple on.
But yeah, it's great. So, anyways, let's see here. Yeah, we're just going to the. Oh yeah, so yeah,
We're doing the cast. We've got the always serviceable at this time Ice-T,
Yeah.
who was a Kangaroo Man earlier this year, and
And
Tank
Tank
Girl.
Girl, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, the low-techs were supposed to be dog men,
Okay.
because in the book, the low-techs were people that like they didn't put cybernetic stuff in their bodies, but they like mutated their bodies and grafted parts of animals into their bodies, so they look like
Oh.
animals. So they weren't like into high technology, but yet they were like genetically manipulating themselves. So it's like, oh yeah, we're the low techs, but I don't know what happened. I guess they didn't have the budget, and
Yeah,
also I don't
probably
think
not the budget.
he wanted to be a dog man after being a kangaroo man, not earlier that year.
Oh, I mean, they already got a dolphin. That'll be enough.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so why this version came about is that Robert Longhill kind of did like a found art piece of his own artwork, where he wanted to do something for the 25th anniversary of the movie. Also, the movie takes place in 2021, so that's when it ultimately gets released. Um, so he ripped a Blu-ray of it, and then he just turned it to black and white. He's like, "Huh, I think there's something here." He still refers it to being as like a shitty looking cheap movie, but has like something more to it. So
I would agree with that assessment.
he's not like ultimately it's better and more impactful. It's like, no, there's something better here now. But he also talks about how he envisioned it originally in black and white. Um, don't know if that's true or not, because creative people, they envision everything all at the same time. So
What's
anything
kind
can
of
be
the
there.
point of this podcast is there's just a thick wall of bullshit between what they say, what actually gets made, and how it happened. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, we're going full Verhoeven here, because the whole movie is going to be: is this movie better because it's in black and white?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's purely interpretive.
Yeah, I mean,
But
some of these guys will sit down and do an interview. It's like, well, really, I wanted to rewrite the Bible. Like, oh, did you? Okay, cool. Well, that didn't see that, but
but this movie, it's unedited. There's no the only thing added to it is that the title Johnny Mnemonic in black and white. But they didn't just turn the color off and release it. They did go back in with like a color specialist, and they got like the 4K, what do you call that? The 4K masters from Sony to re-edit this.
yeah.
And they adjusted things like the contrast and stuff. So this isn't just we turned one switch. No, they dynamically changed things throughout. They made
No,
decisions.
yeah, they were talking about the process a little bit, as like they basically went shot by shot and did it,
Yeah.
where it had to look like it transitioned smoothly. It made sense. They had to change some effects around because in black and white they just didn't work. And yeah,
So yeah, but yeah, also yeah, this isn't streaming. You can only get this on Blu-ray, as far as I know.
yeah.
And yeah, I don't even know why they put it out on Blu-ray, because I guess Sony gave them the permission to release it as like kind of like a special, like let's tour this movie around as an art piece kind of thing. And I don't even know when that happened, but eventually it came out on DVD. And when I caught my eyes, there's another podcast I listened to. They started talking about this movie, and so I immediately stopped listening to that podcast and saved it for this podcast. Because I follow those people on that podcast on Twitter, like I started seeing these scenes pop up, and like it was scenes without Johnny Mnemonic in it, so I didn't recognize that it was Johnny Mnemonic when it was in black and white. I was like, what's this cool like sci-fi German movie?
Yeah. What's this foreign art film?
So anyways, that's how this movie came about. And yeah, I had to buy both of us copies of this so we could watch it for the movie. So
I appreciate that.
yeah, we do it every once in a
And
while.
they find a Blu-ray player.
All right, so we have Act 1. We get a title crawl. So hold in. I got to read this whole thing. I mean, I guess technically I don't have to, but
No, you got to read this. It has a lot to do with what I said like 5 minutes ago.
Second decade of the 21st century, corporations rule. The world is threatened by a new plague, NAS. I think I wrote nerve attenuation syndrome. Here I wrote never, but I'm pretty sure it's nerve.
Yeah, nerve.
fatal epidemic, pandemic. Epidemic means it's localized in a country. Pandemic means it's over the world.
Yeah, I think something happened recently where we learned the difference. Can't remember, but yeah.
Its cause and cure unknown. The corporations are opposed by the low-techs, a resistant movement risen from the streets, hackers, data pirates, guerrilla fighters, and the info wars.
And Alex Jones' head, yelling head like face. It's weird.
Rotating in a 360. um, the corporations defend themselves. They hire the Yakuza, the most powerful of all crime syndicates. They sheathe their data in black ice, lethal viruses waiting to burn the brains of intruders, but the low-techs wait in their stronghold in the old city cores like rats in the walls of the world. The most valuable information must sometimes be entrusted to mnemonic couriers, elite agents who smuggle data in wet-wired brain implants. Then we get the title Johnny Mnemonic in black and white.
Yeah, so imagine a whole book written like that.
I don't know. That's kind of. I feel like that's light on slang for a William Gibson.
Yeah, I mean, I think they might have done a few passes on that.
I mean, that's a great thing about William Gibson. Kind of not narrative. What do you call that? Voice. I don't know, parlance, something like that. Is that if it's meaningless, you just wait a while, and eventually it'll slot in and have some meaning in reality.
Yeah, it carries you along the narrative. It's like, I want to find out what this acronym means, one way or another.
No, I mean just like give it real world time. Like wait 10 years, and this.
I thought you meant in reading the text.
No, in real life, yeah.
IRL. Hey, that William Gibson thing made sense.
Let's see here. Internet 2021. And it's like a 3D computer world filled with like lights and information, which I think like this stuff ages poorly, but you put it in black and white and it doesn't look so bad, because when it's in black and white, you kind of look at the edges of it because it's all flat textures, and looks like pretty generic CG stuff and pretty simple. But like when you put it in black and white, it's more of like you recognize all the shapes coming together rather than the kind of like drab colors and lack of texture.
Yeah, I mean, this is 95, so it's like a little. We're trying to represent a cyber world with a few less blocky pixels and more smooth animation. Because, let's talk. I mean, there's a thing, because we're kind of at the end of our color trilogy, and we've also, or our color, not trilogy, our color series. We've covered a lot of these movies, and even we did like one for the other show. But a lot of these 90s sci-fi movies, especially the 90s dystopian sci-fi, all their DNA goes back to one show. And I don't care if it's a movie or it's the some of the weird 90s sci-fi TV shows that came out. Because remember, there was something called Total Recall 2070, which was like that was a strange Canadian thing too. But all these things trace back to, I don't know if you remember the original Max Headroom TV show.
Yeah.
Okay. It was from, I think it was from, I don't know if it was the BBC or if it was one of the other broadcasters over in the UK. They did like that short movie, 20 minutes into the future.
Yeah.
And then it became the Max Headroom TV series, which I remember watching and liking. And that was from like 87 to 88.
Yeah.
So like 3 years after Blade Runner, we kind of had this universe where TV networks controlled the planet, but it was just basically corporate overlords and information controlling, and TVs where there was no internet then per se, but it was like what would you say? It was more like a giant telescreen from 1984 that you could interact with, and a lot of crazy stuff happened. And the TV shows of uneven quality, but there is some really memorable stuff in it. But everything since then through the 90s and dystopian low budget sci-fi, either movies or TVs, shows it's always like based on Max Headroom from 87, 88. It's weird how consistent it is, including how technology is imagined and envisioned. It's like, oh, we're talking about a cyber experience 40 years in the future from now, but it's still like almost like the movie Brazil, like computers where we're going to have like really tiny screens but huge keyboards and almost like a Steam aesthetic to them. And they
Well,
did that all throughout all
and
these
even
movies.
and even Max Headroom is supposed to be kind of like this AI digital character who glitches. So it's like, oh, so even this thing that's supposed to be high tech doesn't work.
Yeah. I think you can buy the entire Max Headroom TV series. I think you can get it on disc now for like $33. You can get both seasons.
I want to say you can find that on YouTube as well. I'm not sure. I think there's like weird rights issues with that.
Oh no, you can buy the DVD set on Amazon.
Yeah.
Uh, Maybe sometime it'd be worth looking into. I don't know, but yeah, all these movies I was just thinking about that. Like this is all Max Headroom. Like all the ideas. And
Yeah.
weirdly enough, William Gibson wrote a script for one of those series back then too. I don't think it ever got realized because it got canceled. Because it was like, there's always that cliche, way ahead of its time. That show really was like ahead of its time,
Well, I
and
mean, it's.
also of its
I
time.
think I think probably its most famous like use was in Back to the Future 2, which was representing the future, and even Max Headroom was in the future, but as like a retro bar.
Yep. He was also a bad guy in Pixels.
Oh, okay. I've never seen that. I've heard nothing but terrible things about that movie.
It's a complete waste of your time. I mean, the only way you can enjoy it is to be on mushrooms or something, I guess.
like even Ready Player One's a like that's a passable movie. I mean, it's still annoying, but it's like, oh, okay, well, it's Steven Spielberg at the helm, so he made a competent movie that you may not like, but
Yeah.
it's sort of pandering with all. It's like, look at all the stuff we can put on here. um, and then whether you like or hate, just have disdain for the Shining sequence where they like added stuff to the Shining, which I thought that was kind of fun. But other people are like, blasphemy.
Yeah. No one can define the great Kubrick or can redefine the great Kubrick.
Not even one of his friends who carried on his movie.
Yeah. Yeah, who filmed the movie he didn't get to film, which was like the really upbeat artificial intelligence movie.
Yeah.
It's a really happy movie.
Let's see here. Yeah. You just see we cut this 3D computer world, which I don't know. Like I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's been. It's just like stuff flying around, electricities or shapes. There's text all over the place. Like I don't like. I'm not sure when that came out. There was a CGI TV show when I was a kid called Reboot, which I
Okay.
kind of remember of that. Although if you look at that, that was super low rent. Like
Yeah.
that was generic shapes parading around as like a TV show, but it was cool when you were a kid. Which I thought that thing had like 6 seasons, but it actually had two, and the second season was, or maybe three. The last season was like a really dark turn, like where like all the characters die, and then one grows up and loses an eye, and is now like like a bandit in the wastelands of the computer world.
It's like, oh, it was a TV series about the slow and inevitable death of all your dreams
Yeah.
and the loss of an eye. Great. This is not what I thought it would be when it started.
Um. Then we get Johnny Mnemonic. Oh, I guess his name is not Johnny Mnemonic. He's just Johnny, and he's a mnemonic carrier.
Yeah.
Nobody ever calls him Johnny Mnemonic, right? That's not his
No,
last name. Okay.
that's part of his thing is he's like really a guy with he's a generic human. Like there's nothing special or unique about him. He doesn't have a past. We find out why later. Yeah, so he's just kind of like known by the most basic names because he really doesn't remember much. But he chose that voluntarily.
Although Johnny Mnemonic is a really cool name.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody had that name, you'd be like, that's cool.
But like even the studio they're trying to fight that name because people are confused by that. Like, how do you say that? Is that Mnemonic? Johnny Mnemonic?
Or if you just hear it as like Is he like an air tool? You like an air ratchet? It's like, no, that's pneumatic. This is mnemonic. It's a memory technique, you know? So he's
Ah.
like an air gun. No, he's not. No, there's no air. There's not the tools that are attached to his
He's
body.
got to take nuts off the NASCAR.
Not just with his hand. It just doesn't have a hand. He just has
No.
a
Yeah. Yeah, it just looks like a Gatling gun, but each one's an individual thing.
yeah.
So yeah, because Johnny's played by Keanu Reeves. Yeah, and this is in the wake of him doing Speed, like not intentionally. It's incidentally they came out the same year.
Yeah, there's not a lot. Yeah, it's not a.
Because like this is another one like the weird hills and valleys of Keanu Reeves' career is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it also feels like this is miles away from The Matrix, but The Matrix is only 4 years after this.
4 years. Yeah, The Matrix is actually the capstone of 90s dystopian sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly.
All this just boiled into like they got it all right in that movie.
And so like Johnny Mnemonic seemed to leave so much least of an impression that most people didn't even bother to compare this to The Matrix when The Matrix came out.
Yeah, which is weird because I immediately thought in this movie it's like, oh, there he is with like plugs in his head again. It's like he revisits that.
But
and
he
this
gets
was after like the epoch of his career, which was Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Well, I'd say, like the weird hills valley because he's in Bill and Ted, kind of languishes around in weird indie film stuff, which he actually does a good job there.
Yeah.
And then like Point Break is huge, and then just languishes again. Speed is huge, then languishes again, and then Matrix is huge, languishes again, and then John Wick is huge. He just keeps popping up.
Yeah. He has had a strange career.
Yeah.
And see, now he's kind of, it's like he's one of those guys, it's like he's found his niche. Because a lot of people I never really got the I hate how Keanu Reeves as an actor stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, he's always Keanu Reeves, but he's always good. He's a physical actor. I mean, that's like his thing. But it's like, oh, if you shape things around him, it's like he's really good.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to get but again, he's not Daniel Day-Lewis. This isn't.
He doesn't disappear into his roles.
Yeah, he's not like Marlon Brando. It's like he's a different kind of actor. He's an actor like he's made for certain things. Because there's lots of actors that just play themselves and everyone likes it. But for some reason, Keanu Reeves is singled out as like, oh, he's wooden and he seems like he comes off as a dullard, and it's like, well, maybe he's not just in the right role for Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Like The Matrix, perfect. John Wick, perfect. It's like, yeah, he's made to play those roles because the way he delivers dialogue, especially in John Wick, it's like, yeah, that's perfect how he does that. Well, he does say things and he doesn't act, but it's like, yeah, okay, this is how this guy would act.
Well, there's like a similar thing with like Paul Walker, where he's like not a great actor, but if you put him in the right movie, he's great because he brings an energy to his roles.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Fast and Furious is like great. Like Running Scared, probably one of his best movies. Timeline? No, he's not. He's not a scientist.
He's the most beautiful scientist. Yeah, no, doesn't work.
And weirdly, probably his most effective movie for bringing emotion was after he died.
Oh, yeah.
Made grown men cry when the two cars part the way.
Yeah, in a series of movies I've never watched yet. And I'm going to keep to that one. It's not going to be like The Godfather where I just held off for 25 years just because.
Oh, it's such a fascinating series because it really should not exist at all.
Yeah, just something that keeps slipping through the cracks.
Because like even like the first Fast and Furious was just like kind of just a lesser remake of Point Break. Again, that's Keanu versus Paul Walker. It's like, okay, yeah, I get this guy. He's like good looking and brings an energy, but he's completely vapid.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, then like he stays on the series, Vin Diesel leaves. Then it goes in like it has no characters or has one side character from the original in Tokyo Drift. And then that's a minor success, and then they just bring it back and it just becomes a huge blockbuster. And then it becomes Dragon Ball Z, where it's like the bad guy from the previous movie becomes part of the team in the next movie, and they keep just finding more evil people to fight against.
And it's always fighting done with cars.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's always car-based fighting, which
I mean, it's like, yeah, it's whole like, what's the Armageddon thing, where it's like, yeah, we can't get special forces to do this. We need like special like street street racers to do this special forces thing because only they can do.
Quasi-criminal like job pullers can do this for us. Couldn't we just like point a laser at these guys and hit them with a missile from the sky? It's like, well, we could. Yeah, Fast and the Furious is like, it's like the Transformers if the cars never turned into robots. That's kind of the same vibe. It's like the real heroes are the cars.
I do stand by like really you don't need to see any of them, but if you do see one, see Fast 5 because that is probably the best, most spectacular one that's still like mostly practical effects.
Okay.
Because now they're kind of like half of it's CGI now, and it's completely ridiculous. It's like, well, now it's not even cool. It's like it was cool when you're like, oh wow, that's a really dangerous car stunt, but you did it for real, so it's cool. It's like now it's just a guy sitting in a green screen room as they do weird stuff with CGI because we got to shove a car into space.
Yeah, no, I want to see the death proof type car stuff. No, I don't want to see the CGI stuff.
So Keanu Reeves gets a wake-up call in his eyeball. There's a lady that asks Johnny where his home is. She's like heading out to get some ice, which I didn't know if that was going to be like. He looks over and he sees that there's ice in the bucket. He's like, we have ice, but I just immediately assumed ice meant like a drug or something like that. But apparently she's just bored with him and wants to leave. So
yeah, she's like fulfilled her service. I assume she's a prostitute based on things you said later.
Then he calls Ralphie, played by Udo Kier, which is everyone's favorite evil German.
Yeah.
They're arguing.
Udo, we're doing a movie. It's a lot of weird. Yes, I'll be there. Just tell me where. I'll show up. You want to know anything? No. So this is your character's motivation. I do the same thing. And people love me for it.
I know why you hired me.
I'm a German effeminate man. I was always a vampire, even when I'm not a vampire. I'm Udo Kier.
So they're arguing about how much like an implant removal will cost. They're talking about like he doesn't want it removed. He wants like his memories replaced and all this stuff, which, you know, again, that's kind of thrown out there. You don't know exactly the mechanism or what's possible in this world. It's like, okay, what?
Yeah, where are your memories? Like if they took something out of your brain to install this memory device, it's like, well, would they keep your memories on ice somewhere? Or are they on some weird like free air jazz drive, which is the dominant technology of this universe?
But he's got a big dangerous job to take on, so this is kind of one of those usual like one final score kind of things going on here. So it's like, the danger's high, but the payoff is good. It's like, I got to take it because nothing else is going on.
It's that last score.
Yeah.
Which is another trope from a movie. The best last score is in the movie Looper. It's like, I love that last score. Silver, 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 gold. Yeah, now I'm killing myself. Amazing.
We cut to a different scene. It's a central Beijing on there. There's rioting in the streets. Everyone is wearing medical masks, and of course,
yep. 2021 COVID.
Yep.
They predicted it. It's the nerve attenuation syndrome.
The nerve attenuation syndrome is so many microns. Masks are useless.
Yeah. If you get the cure for this, you're going to become gay. Oh, did anyone?
Yeah, did you get activated by the Marburg
That's
virus?
what I was going to ask you about. When the alert went off, did you turn into a fuck puppet? I don't. That didn't happen to me, so I don't know. Did you
I
see them
did
burst
me,
into
and
flame?
I had two phones go off.
Oh no, got blasted twice. I was really hoping it's like I see. I heard that, not the conspiracy theories right away, but I heard it's like they're going to do this test that I think they do every year. It seems like because I remember this happening.
Well, I think this is slightly newer that they can basically activate all phones nationwide. But I mean, you always get this risk for like Amber Alerts and tornado warnings
Yeah,
because people don't have cable anymore, so they're like, oh shit, we better find a different way to get the word out.
yeah.
um, it does feel weird to take over your phone. Like I have it on silent. It's like, don't worry, we got you, fam. We're gonna make this as loud as fucking possible.
Oh no, I got my watch did it too. 'Cause my watch is its own separate phone if it's not connected to the phone. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was on my wrist was like, like, oh yeah, it's that test thing. Because of course I was in the middle of like loading something, and all of a sudden everything's vibrating. And like, oh yeah, okay, yep. But I looked around and I didn't watch it. No one spontaneously combusted. So I guess we're all right.
It was weird. My Apple phone went off once, but my Android went off twice. I don't know what that was about.
Some people got it in Spanish. I saw
Yeah.
like on the internet. They were like, "Yeah, I don't speak this language, but for some reason I got a Spanish version."
Maybe that was that. Maybe that was one of them for the Android. Maybe one of them was in English and one of them was in Spanish.
That could be.
Um,
Man, a lot
not.
of people around here speak Spanish. It's weird. People you don't even think. Like run into somebody else and they'll be like, I was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, "Oh, my wife's from Mexico." I was like, "Oh, okay." It's like, yeah, it's like, oh, I didn't know that.
um, yeah, I read this weird blog that somebody put up about like their landlord being crazy and like they're like,
Like
hey, if
turning
I
the power so the appliances don't get blown up.
yeah, it was like, what the fuck are they talking? Because that's the first time I heard about this whole conspiracy thing. And the guy's like, I guess you shouldn't have voted for Biden. I'm sorry, if you had the vaccine, you're gonna die that day. Might want to put a tinfoil hat on. It's like, what the. And it's like, so what happens when nothing happens? Does this guy ever take this back? He just moves on to the next conspiracy.
No, you just move on to the
Yeah,
next.
and then
That's why
some.
the Moonies like stop predicting the end of the world because it's like after a while, it's like, hey, what happens? If it does happen? Who cares? And if it doesn't, it's like, well, it's like cry wolf story.
And then somebody's going a whole explanation about like so many landlords now are just they just inherited it from their parents and they're like, oh cool, I don't get to work either anymore, and then they just devolve into madness of being crazy landlords and insisting their own political ideals of onto people because they don't actually have to like work a day in their lives. They just get to imagine all day.
I try to imagine if I had infinite free time and infinite money. I don't think that's what I would be doing. I would probably be doing like weird RC car stuff. Something I don't think I would definitely there'd be lots of guns and there'd be like maybe artillery and cannons from the Civil War if I had that kind of money. But just because it's cool, not to arm myself against the apocalypse. I can't imagine going around trying to impose like I'm just gonna sit here and just sweat this out for this wonderful life I've inherited. It's like now I'm gonna be angry and paranoid all the time. And I know people like that actually. They're just rich people that it's like they're out to get us. They're coming for us. And I always think it's like, do you really believe this, or is this just like internalized guilt for who you are and what you have in life? You know, because like
But the,
life's blessings are not proportionally distributed. I get that, but you don't have to tear yourself apart over it either.
now, do they think the government's trying to get him, or do they think the proletariat's going to rise up against them?
Kind of both. Well, when Biden's elected, it's like, oh, all the poor people elected Biden to kill me, or some version of that. But Trump's going to save me. I don't know how, but Trump
uh,
save himself. It looks like the God Man's not going to wiggle out of the noose this time, or maybe he is. I don't know. Who knows?
stabbing westward.
Yeah.
Play it in your head right now. I cannot say.
And played in this soundtrack a couple times.
Oh, stabbing westward in the soundtrack. Oh, okay.
Let me look it up. I know that the Johnny Mnemonic soundtrack is like the ultimate, like 70 or 90s Someone said it's like a great soundtrack from the 90s. Let me look that up though.
I know KMFDM is here, and we'll get to KMFDM because I have a whole like diatribe about them. So, um, yeah, Johnny works his way through the crowds because the riot. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they're writing about. Is this just about the virus or like government or? Because really, what it implies there is no governments anymore. It's just corporations like own all these countries. But I'm not sure. That could
Yeah, I
just be.
don't. This whole virus thing, like, it becomes bigger as the story goes on, but you really don't know at first. Like, how bad is this virus? Like they said, it's a thing, so I'm assuming that's what they're supposed to be writing about, but I don't
Okay.
know.
Johnny ends up at some hotel. There's this cool like globe fish tank, which I know like a lot of fish bowls are globe, but this is like a sphere fish tank. Um, I don't know if they just made it for this movie or if those exist. I don't know. It's
Yes, two Stabbing Westward songs in this soundtrack.
huh.
Lost and I See Through.
Okay.
And then there's a Bono and the Edge song, and God Lives Underwater, and KMFDM. But yeah.
Johnny's like walking into a elevator, and there's a screen that like kind of like glitches out, and you see like kind of bits and pieces of Ice-T's face, and he interrupts a broadcast saying something about like snatching back your brain.
Yeah.
Which your conspiracy theorists presumably would have to like side with Ice-T here because they're like don't listen to the government, man. They're trying to steal. And in this instance, he's correct.
Yeah.
So yeah, Johnny gets the elevator. He plugs his brain into a doubler. It doubles his memory capacity in his head, which here comically upgrades his brain from 80 gigs to 160 gigs.
Yeah, I noticed that. My computer has more memory, like 4 times as much.
I think my phone has more memory than that.
He's using like a Mad Catz, game cheat thing from the 90s to upgrade his capability.
He switched to the
how does it double? Like, does it change the compression algorithm? And
I don't know. It may change the form. It's like it changes it to FAT32 or whatever.
I don't know how it's working. But it's
very
satisfying how quickly the elevator countdown and the progress of his upgrade goes. It's like it's visually satisfying to see that. And again, he's plugging something into the back of his head, just like Neo.
Yeah, it's like an 1/8-inch jack that he plugs in the back of his head.
Yeah, the stuff in the Matrix is like scary.
Yeah, it's like going right
plugging
in your
a penis into the back of your head. Like, where's that going? Actually,
right in your spine.
How does that work? That seems to have a lot of depth to it. Looks like the RoboCop data probe that pops out of his hand. It's like, wow, where are they sticking that? But
Johnny shows up too. I wrote the Yakuza pointing guns at his head, which this might be like Yakuza. I don't know.
Well, these are the renegade Japanese scientists from Pharmacon.
Yeah, but like I don't. There is kind of this distinction between. I thought at this because there is a distinction like in the opening credits that there's a difference between the Yakuza and Pharmacon. I felt like there was no difference in this movie. I felt like the Yakuza was Pharmacon.
They seem like the same thing. I would describe these guys as more like armed hired muscle, street muscle.
Yeah.
Because they didn't fare very well in their fight with the Yakuza.
No.
Well, by the way, the action scenes in this movie generally suck too. Weirdly bad. I don't know why that is, but
well, I mean, it's low budget. You don't have a guy that can film action. If producers were insisting on action, they probably insisted on the most generic action there was.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no like bullet cam in this movie.
But yeah, this is kind of funny because they'll point guns at his head and he holds up the briefcase and he's like, extra cheese, anchovies.
It kind of establishes little things about his character that I like in the movie. It's like, oh, he's a professional. He's a jaded expert at this.
Yeah.
He's seen it all. Nothing really impresses him.
But the guys hiring him seem to be like nerds, so you don't know what that's about. It's like, oh, some tech thing. Yeah. The package is 320 gigs, which is double what Johnny can do. But Johnny acts like this, like, no problem. But um, I think there was a warning on the machine that when he was doubling his memory, it's like, do not exceed it or like death may occur or whatever. So this is a problem, and he's just like, it'll be fine.
And what's it called? There's a name for it, like neural
Brain linkage or
seepage or
something.
something.
Yeah, something like that.
It's like that doesn't sound good. You got to get a shot for that.
um. Yeah, and the guys tell him like he'll be dead in a couple days if the package exceeds capacity. He's like, yeah, hook me up.
Yeah.
So Johnny has to assemble a bunch of gadgets to make the transfer, which is it's kind of neat here. All the stuff I like the open-ended CD reader that's just like a quarter of the size, and the CD's just out in the open spinning.
Yeah, it's cool. That shows up in a lot of '90s sci-fi.
Yeah. Also like that he has the mouthpiece that he's got to put in. It's like, this is gonna hurt. Yeah, he also puts on some VR goggles, which still looks the same today.
Yeah, that's as stupid then as now. It's not improved.
I mean, it works nowadays, but but still looks just as stupid.
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's probably cool, but it's like a moped. You wouldn't want anyone to see you riding one.
Yeah.
It's just fun, that kind of stuff.
Also, everybody got VR wrong, and probably still gets it wrong because they act like, oh, you put a screen over your face, but then your mind is transplanted into the world, and if you die in there, you'll die in real life. It's like, that's not how it works. It's just a video screen. Now in the Matrix, that makes sense because they shove a whole implement into your fucking head, so that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't know you're in an artificial.
Yeah, you don't have goggles over your head.
Yeah, you're just laying in goop somewhere until Trump comes and red or whatever happens. I forget. All the terms have gotten mixed up.
Oh man, I accidentally learned about red pill the other day, and I was like so disappointed. Have you heard that term?
Yeah, I use it all the time humorously.
Oh no, it's like, it's worked beyond that. That's it's a weird thing now.
Yeah, there's red pill, blue pill, black pill, death pill. Yeah, there's all kinds of shit. But
yeah, but I just there's like something that came up about the red pill movement. I'm like, what the fuck was that? And it's basically like, I don't even. You remember that guy like the game or whatever, and he talking about like how like to pick up women by like pointing out the like negative things about them, so like they'll prey on their insecurities to try to have sex with them.
Oh no, that sounds like the worst thing I've ever heard. What the hell?
So that was like early 2000s, but now it's like just become a whole thing where it's like now it's just guys who hate women, but they know if they prey on women's insecurities that they'll have sex with them, and that's their pure motivation in the dating scene, and they call it the red pill movement.
Oh, okay, that's not the funny red pill. What I'm talking about is when I say like someone will do something stupid, like I don't know, go shoot up the Hoover Dam because they think something's going to happen. I say, yeah, he was based and red pilled, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
is like he's created his own fiction that he insists is absolute reality, but it's like the least possible reality, like the tunnels of children that they've got to rescue and all this other nonsense. That's what I saw. I didn't know there was like some kind of misogynistic, I want to abuse women and have sex with them because I hate women thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That sounds.
Yeah. I was unaware of it too, so that's why it caught me by surprise. Because it's a internet forum, so you don't know if anything's true.
Yeah.
But what was presented as a bunch of women saying like, I'm never going to date anybody ever again because of this thing. Like they tell their husband, it's like, after you, like, I'm just becoming a spinster. There's no more love. Like, men are terrible. I got the last good one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be. I don't know. I mean, as long as people are, some of the stuff though you hear about on the internet, it takes on. It's like the satanic panic of the '80s. It's like, wow, this sounds really amazing, but then you realize like nobody has the energy, time, self-loathing to like behave like this constantly. But yeah, there'll be like 3 jackasses on YouTube that actually do this, and then all of a sudden
Oh,
it's in the nightly news or something.
I don't know, like millions of people listen to that Andrew Tate guy, and like I don't, I haven't listened to him once. That's
Is that the guy who got arrested for running a brothel in Romania or something?
yeah, I think they let him out, but yeah, he was like a guy, he was like an MMA guy, and then he got a podcast basically saying how awesome he is and how like women should submit or something. I don't even know what it is. I just know it's stupid and I shouldn't bother. Um,
Yeah, I mean, well, there's women that want to marry the serial killers in prison too. So there's always something that happens, but that doesn't mean that applies to like the majority of people.
um, so yeah, the transfer goes through and Johnny's like disoriented and he goes to the bathroom. Um, the guys destroy the original data, so Johnny's the only one. There's a weird thing how it's stored here. It's basically like they have the data, they put it in Johnny's head, they destroy the original, so now it only exists in Johnny's head. And I guess it has to be in Johnny's head because he's the only one that can smuggle it. Even though it's information, it can be broadcast worldwide. Like this is safer to travel through a human being that can't be detected like through airports or whatever. So I don't know why. Like I don't know, Nathan. What's the importance of the mnemonic broker here or mnemonic carrier here? Why it's necessary?
Well, because essentially, well, I mean, it does just explain it later. First of all, you can't transmit data because it can all be hacked
Yeah,
or something. So what this guy is he basically has a thumb drive at his head, but when he goes through passport control, it shows up as some kind of cybernetic implant to help him with dyslexia,
yeah.
or it's disguised as to what it is. So these are basically data couriers that move seamlessly through society and can take very important stuff from one group to another.
So it's
And
just
it's
ensuring as much as possible that the data is not corrupted on the way. So
and this also works because it's not something that he can like take and sell to somebody else and betray you because of how the encrypt key images work.
yeah, he doesn't know the data that's going into his brain. That's
Yeah, he
like
can't
that
read
that
it. Yeah.
he I don't know. Apparently, like people can do it either way. He chooses it to do the way I don't want to know because then it safe keeps all parties then. So
Yeah, because he'll just be killed at the point of sale because it's
yeah.
like, oh well, you know what this is. All right, well, get it out of them and shoot him in the head. Because in this world there's no like penalty for that kind of behavior.
Yeah. Well, there's no government, so.
Yeah.
um. Yeah, Johnny does some Tai Chi to center himself in the bathroom, which is actually just a cool scene. I don't know. It's very simple. It's a cool overhead shot, and then he looks in the mirror and just like, I have to center myself. And he just does some. Like, he describes it in the interview on the DVD as like, Johnny needs to make shapes. And so he's like making
Yeah.
squares and triangles. I interpret it as Tai Chi, but yeah.
I guess it
Uh,
was something he did on the fly.
yeah, yeah. That's the power of Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
It's like do something physical and he makes it work. um,
And blood coming out of you and hitting the sink looks weirder in black and white than
yeah.
because at first you're like oil. He's got oil coming out of his head. Oh, wait, that's blood. All right, yeah, black and white.
Yeah, black and white movies used to use chocolate syrup for blood because it read better. Like the
Oh,
viscosity would read, and because you couldn't see that it was red, it just worked better. So yeah, all the blood in Psycho just Hershey's syrup, chocolate syrup.
now that I know that, I'll never unknow that.
um, yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do in black and white because it doesn't matter what the color is. Use asbestos for everything.
Yeah.
Then some assassins break in, which this is the Yakuza, and then they kill everyone in the room. Johnny fights his way out, and then he kind of like disguises himself in the elevator. He kind of puts glasses on. Is he trying to do some like Asian face thing here? I can't remember, or does he just look weird?
He just looks weird because it's
Okay.
like long hair and like a newsboy's hat and colored glasses.
Yeah.
And for some reason, when he's walking through the lobby, everyone's looking at him like, okay,
Yeah.
that's I don't know what that's all about, but
that guy looks weird and suspicious. Like, yes, my
Yeah,
costume worked.
everyone remembers like that guy, but it's like that's not the guy we're looking for.
So I have been the end of Act 1 because he's got the stuff, now he's got to get it out. So Act 2, we get to the free city of Newark, which I'm not sure if
Yeah.
this is supposed to be New Jersey or somewhere else.
No, it's Newark. Yeah, Newark, New Jersey.
Okay. Um, 'Cause I feel like Newark
Like I said,
doesn't.
this was set in the Sprawl trilogy, so that's like I forget how it works. It's not as crazy as like the mega cities and Judge Dredd, but it's something. It's just called the Sprawl. So basically, New York, New Jersey, all these things grew together
Yeah.
in like a continuous chain going down to like Florida. But weirdly, like in the Sprawl trilogy, there's like still suburbs and stuff. Like people live in houses outside of the city, like the wealthy people. So that we don't get into that here, but yeah, calling something a free city is like in in the 20th century vernacular, they had that when like cities were caught in a war zone between two factions. Oftentimes the people that ran the cities would say, well, this is a free city or an open city, which means we're not taking sides in the war, so we don't need one group or the other sitting outside of it shelling it. It's an open city, please don't come here and fight with each other. So I'm guessing like that's why they're calling that here. And also because he has to use an American digital passport control to get into Newark. So I'm assuming like, oh, it's not part of America anymore, I
Oh
guess.
yeah. I guess yeah. Well, no, he comes from Beijing, so.
Oh, okay. Well, that could be re-entering the country. Yeah. Wow, Beijing to Newark. That's a hell of a flight.
I
Are there any layovers in that?
don't know. There's a bunch of. Well, no, actually, they show the Concorde.
That's
So
right.
he
They have
took.
the Concorde. Yeah, those became very common as time went on. They're really efficient to operate a plane that took $100,000 worth of gasoline to fly 50 people. It's like, yeah,
I,
that's good use of your money.
well, I don't know. Is it in this universe? Is there like commercial space travel at this point, or is it just before that?
Don't know.
Okay.
This seems to be like a world that's turned in on itself in a lot of ways. And also, there's a virus that's like killing half the
Oh
population of the
yeah.
world. So I don't know if they're branching out. But then again, that's the thing about dystopian stuff like this, where it's like it's kind of cool, but it's like the mega corporations control everything. It's like, what are they using for money? The society is obviously in free fall. Like, is power just the what they broker on? Because I don't know if they can really buy or sell a lot. It was like that ridiculous those Of the Dead movies that George Romero did later on, where it's like oh, we got to get this money out of the tower. It's like it's a world of zombies. The hell, what's the money do? Do you eat it? Does it taste good? But yeah, so
I mean, wasn't that the point? Why are these people still awed by the power of money when it doesn't hold any?
yeah, I mean maybe that was the point, but it's to me I saw that like a weakness. I wasn't looking at it as a metaphor. Sometimes I'm too practical and I think in straight lines, and I see it's like, oh, is this like a art piece MacGuffin thing we're doing? Which
Yeah.
I can't see people would like throw themselves in front of a horde of zombies to risk having something that's obviously worthless. If it was gold, I could see it would have maybe some value, just like because human beings like shiny things, or maybe you need to conduct electricity or something. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I don't understand these like evil societies where it's like they have all the money. It's like good, they have it all. What are they doing with it? If
Nah.
one person has it all, it has no value. I mean, we're
Uh,
about to find out in America that will soon reach its final form here, and we'll all
yeah.
be looking at each other like, "The fuck are we doing?" Jeff Bezos has all the money now. It's okay, great.
um. So yeah, New York's like a smoky, dirty city. Here we got KMFDM playing, which I don't know. This might be the biggest use of KMFDM ever because I know who KMFDM is. Nathan, you know who they are.
Yes.
Everybody probably incidentally knows who KMFDM is, but they're almost never played on the radio. They're never featured in really any media outside of like video games and
Yep.
here and anime.
Yep.
um, they have like 25 albums, but like but almost like everybody knows who they are, but nobody knows who they are. I mean, they're almost like Gwar, where it's like the same thing, where it's like everybody knows who Gwar is, but nobody has an album, nobody's heard him on the radio, and nobody's been to a concert, but everybody knows who Gwar is.
Yeah, I have 9 albums. No, I don't. That's not even half of them. Those are just the
No,
ones
they're still cranking them out, and
yeah.
I mean, I don't. KMFDM is also kind of AC/DC in that way, where it's like they kind of make the same song every time, but you still like it because I don't know, it just hits that same nostalgia for me. Because I've enjoyed their last 3 albums, which kind of getting old, kind of getting old at this point, but I still like them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I got into them when it was like the same. I discovered them when it was like, oh, when Ministry was on Wax Tracks and all that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here's KMFDM. What's this? It's like, yeah, this is suitably weird. I enjoy this.
well, yeah, because almost all the songs are the same kind of like fast techno industrial beat with like heavy drums.
Yeah.
And then they're always about like anti-establishment. Like that's all the lyrics are about. That's all their songs. But I don't know. I just really like them. So.
They have cool album art.
Yes, it's consistent album art, strange, cool stuff. Like you might as you don't even need to listen to the CD. It's just a cool art piece to have.
Yeah. They're a German band that only sings in English.
Yeah. For a while they're MDFMK because they got caught up in like the Columbine thing as like an excuse to like why Columbine happened.
Yeah, because a bunch of anti-establishment socialists were like, yeah, just go shoot up your school. That's what we. Oh no, KMFDM's like appeared in school shootings in Europe too.
Oh, okay.
Like Norway and stuff. Like,
oh.
Yeah, they've been accused of all kinds of, and it hasn't. It's all stupid. It's like because Marilyn Manson was also responsible.
Yeah,
for and all that. Like, okay, yeah, that's it.
And Doom, the video game.
Yeah, Doom did it. They were all working together because that's what they really wanted.
Yeah, they weren't just artists seeking commerce. They were trying to undermine society.
Well, like a lot of that stuff, I see the humor in it, not the seriousness.
Yeah.
Even Ministry is like to me, it's fun. Like I listen to that with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
Because I mean, just like the most ridiculous, like the Land of Rape and Honey, like just that song, and it's people just saying that over and over again, and just weird music. It's like to me, I listen to that with a smile on my face because it's just so weird. It's like this is funny, and it's obviously like an fu to, wholesome stuff, and it's like no, this is really what it is. It's the land of taking advantage of and hurting people, and it's like, but I don't understand this. It's like, oh no, this is about killing people at your school or whatever. It's like, what? Okay, don't see the connection. But
KMFDM has kind of a B-side called Sex on the Flag, where it's just about sex on the flag, give me respect or give me death. And it's like is this song about desecrating the flag or celebrating it? It's like, who knows?
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, that's the thing. It's like multi-dimensional. Like they really, either they're desecrating the flag or that flag represents the most joyous thing two people can do. Who knows?
So yeah,
KMFDM really wants you to shoot up the school. That's what they really
want. There's Johnny has like a full body passport scan, which is kind of even puts his like passport chip in or whatever. It's kind of a neat thing.
Puts a passport. What was it? Well, it wasn't the Atari. So it was like a cartridge, like
kind of looked like a Game Gear cartridge.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't Atari. It was a smaller one, but
or the Atari.
There's a weird body scan, which actually looks cool in black and white.
Yeah.
It just looks like an X-ray appeared on the screen. Weird.
Here it detects a cranial implant, which is like that's a bad thing, but then it dismisses. It's like, oh, it's a dyslexic implant. You're good. Here the machine also warns of cranial seepage and imminent death.
Cranial seepage. Yeah, you don't ever want cranial seepage.
So he leaves the passport booth and he tosses the passport in a garbage can. Then we cut to the Pharmacom building with com spelled KOM.
Yep.
Here we got Takahashi,
Which
He's like,
somebody told me that means like if something is spelled like that, like in Greek, because it's like pharma is like a Greek word that it's like medicine or health, and com either means death or progress.
huh.
I didn't look that up because it just sounded so cool. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go with that because it's spelled pharmacom with like a K, not a C.
Yeah.
So,
Well, also like, well, in some of the stuff of the founder, I thought it said it was like founded in Germany, I think. So I didn't know if that was like a German thing too. Oh,
okay,
although I do like how, oh, what is it? It's cool how what they call what Germans call like a pharmacy is funny. It's like it's basically like apothecary. It's like apotheotech or something like that.
oh,
Let me look,
okay.
let me look up German to English live on the show. Because
Because I
that's
know
like
like the UK, because it's weird because they also or they speak English supposedly. It's like it's you never call it like a drugstore. It's go see the chemist.
yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. But here we call it a pharmacy or a drugstore, but they'll say go to a chemist. Of course, now they probably call it that too because of all the weird language melt that's going on.
Yeah, I wrote pharmacy and it translated to apotheke. Apothec. I
Okay.
remember, but yeah, so yeah, it's like I remember being like apothotech or something like that. But yeah, so it's essentially like apothecary, but like in
I
German.
like we should do that. I like that. It makes me feel like I'm in Shakespeare. Run on to the apothecary, honey. Well, I need to get some nightshade and some medicine for my feet.
Well, you know what they call a library in German, don't you?
Is it the same thing as French, the biblioteca?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh. I didn't know if that was a French thing. I thought that was a German thing.
Yeah, French, German, English, they share a lot. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird.
Or maybe I'm thinking that, or maybe I'm just thinking of some Patton Oswalt skit where he's talking like, "Gotta go down to the big bibliothèque to get a, a lithium badge or something." Forget. Yeah, we get Takahashi here. He's like the head boss of Pharmacom and part of the Yakuza. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is played by Takeshi Kitano, who's also known as Beat Takeshi. He's
Isn't he
like,
like a comedy guy in
yeah,
Japan?
yeah. Yeah, he
'Cause
used
I
to do
know he's
stand up.
doing his lines in phonetic English in this movie. You can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I guess there's like a Japanese cut of this movie that just puts more scenes of him in the movie.
Okay.
Uh, so but in Japan they called it a director's cut, but there is really no director's cut. Like not even this movie, which is recolored by the director, is not a director's cut.
Yeah.
um, yeah, like I think we last saw him in that move that how was it like Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence or whatever.
Okay.
That like World War II movie with Ziggy Stardust. Why do I never remember his name? David Bowie.
David Bowie, yeah.
Yeah, he was like
Oh,
the
so he was in that. Okay.
yeah he was like the main captain. That he was I can't remember. It's like Akari, the head guy, the head detective in Ghost in the Shell live action movie. He was in that. He's like the main bad guy in Battle Royale.
Okay.
Remember the guy who gets shot to death and then just like quietly gets up and answers the phone like nothing happened.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's him. Apparently he's in like some crazy movie. I saw like a trailer of. I was like, I got to see this movie. I think it's just called Violent Cop. He's great. But yeah, so he's just the boss. He's awaiting bad news. There's also this mention of Takahashi like has like recently lost a child, which you find out later lost it to NAS. Um, and then we cut to Ralphie's talking to Johnny in a cab, and he says they need to extract the data manually, which basically means like we need to rip that thing out of your head, and whether you survive or not is of our concern.
Yeah.
uh, Johnny's freaking out from being overloaded. Because sometimes they have like flashes where it's supposed to be like it's either he's like remembering stuff or he's like seeing the data. I'm not exactly sure. Or just they're trying to convey that, like, oh yeah, his head's all screwed up. It's hard to
Yeah,
concentrate.
well, how I interpret it is the data is random bits of it are like interfering with his thoughts and
Yeah,
making him pass out and twitch and stuff. So
yeah. It's like the data's going beyond its capacity, so it's seeping into his brain. Cranial seepage. Then we cut to Spider, played by Henry Rollins, and his like few. I mean, I guess he's probably still in movies, but like, yeah, Henry Rollins would just show up in movies every once in a while in the '90s.
oh yeah. Well, if you wanted a guy that yelled dialogue, that was peak Henry Rollins.
Yeah.
But if you wanted like an introspective guy, maybe this was not his wheelhouse. Because in this movie, the best when he's at his best, he's yelling things at people,
Yeah.
which is kind of like Henry Rollins' whole thing.
Yeah. And what do you think Henry Rollins is best known for?
Ooh, right.
Because wasn't he was like the lead singer of Black Flag.
That's what I associate him with.
But I feel like the Rollins band got big when he's basically doing that, like, basically like poetry as music thing.
Yeah, he's doing the spoken word stuff.
Yeah, and then from there he just got into movie gigs. So like I don't know which one is the most important to his career.
I don't know. He's been in a lot of movies. Damn.
Oh yeah, he'd do
He was in
anything.
Lost Highway. He had a bit part in Lost Highway. I remember that.
Maybe he just has a lot of friends and people like him.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like a fun guy.
He also always in crazy shape. So
Yeah.
I just felt like him and Flea were in a bunch of stuff where it's like, why are they here? So yeah, it's Spider.
Henry Rollins is 62 now.
It's Spider and Jane. Jane's played by Dina Meyer. I wrote they're like doing recon in a club, which I guess they're kind of doing. She's looking for a job because she's a bodyguard. So yeah, she needs a bodyguard job, and so she's like looking at Ralphie's bodyguards and being like jealous of them. It's like, oh, I'm better than them, which they are mentioned in the book. I think what they are they like the or are they called like the Dog Sisters or something like that. Um,
Something like that.
they're basically like they're women that have like had so much plastic surgery that they look exactly alike except one's black and one's white. And they do mention in the book that like he doesn't remember which one used to be a man. Or here they play that out more obviously. It's like, oh, one's a trans character.
Yeah. Well, the white lady's like the director's wife.
Oh, it is okay.
Yeah, she's like a German lady. She's really tall.
Um. So yeah, she tries to get a job, but Ralphie like asks her to just hold her hand still, and she does, and then eventually she just grabs his hand, but which they're waiting for her to get the shakes, which is like which is called the black shakes, which is like the one of the symptoms of NAS. Um, but then they see like a bunch of like they see a bunch of like I don't know like ports on her arm, or are they supposed to be like drug use things or something? But they call her a junkie, and um,
No, those are like nerve. They're for enhanced reflexes, I believe.
okay,
That's how I understood it. But they're not like expensive implants, and they'll
oh,
also overload your nervous system if used too much. Kind of like remember the girl in The Expanse
yeah,
she was all modded out so she could move like with blurring speed,
yeah,
but then she would crash and have to like sleep for 4 days afterwards or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, kind of the same concept. It's never really introduced in the movie. In this movie, she's just seen as a really good fighter
yeah.
who also has the neuro attenuation syndrome. So it's like okay,
Yeah, I saw you. Yeah, by the end of the movie, I'm not sure like whether they're worried about she has NAS or they're worried about her withdrawals from her implants. I didn't know which they were really worried about.
yeah. It's again, it's like a lot of concepts in this movie. It sort of smears. It's like,
Yeah.
well, okay, I guess that resolved itself, or it didn't.
Um, but yeah, she doesn't get the gig to guard Ralphie. Let me cut to Johnny getting
He
dropped
does
off.
offer her a job as a prostitute, though.
Oh,
In that
um,
weird Udo Kier, I'm a gross human way of doing it.
yeah.
Would you like to try something a little less physical?
um, Johnny gets dropped off in a junkyard or whatever. I mean, really, this whole city looks like a junkyard.
Yeah, it's like the junkyard of Newark. Yeah.
The
Yeah,
junkyard
people
of
that live there,
Canada.
I've heard that said it's like, yeah, it's in Canada, but they said, yeah, the Newark in this movie doesn't look a whole lot. It's just in Newark sometimes the sun is out. They said that's the only difference. I don't know. Not don't know anything about the place, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's that. I don't know, because it's like people say like the ironic thing about New Jersey being called the Garden State is like almost every inch of the place is paved over with something. So it's just
Yeah.
although there are extensive farms and stuff in New Jersey, I don't know where the hell they are, but they do exist.
Yeah, there's something called the Pine Barrens there too. Where mutant animals run around and kill people, and the tornadoes go and bury bodies.
um, uh, we got J Bone, played by Ice-T, is like spying on Johnny. There's a black cowboy that invites Johnny to a room. It's a setup. There's like, oh yeah, there's this bald guy from the first attack. He's there, but Johnny escapes from them again. Um, J Bone's like buddy gets like killed like randomly, gets shot by the bald guy. Um, and then it's like J Bone like jumps down to like look after him, and the bald guy just runs up and like holds him up. It's like it's all awkward. It's like, why would you do that? Why is this guy holding him up now?
You just shoot him. That's what you do. Just, freelance killer.
Then J Bone kills the cowboy, but he's got like a knife launcher on his arm.
Yeah.
It's just a crossbow, but instead of a bolt, it uses a knife.
Yeah, it's as seen in the Road Warrior, the guy with the crossbow on his wrist.
And Johnny hits the ball guy with like, I just, it hits him with like a 2x4 or whatever, and then takes the gun. Does he like, who kills the ball guy, or does the ball guy get killed? Does Johnny just shoot him or something? I can't remember.
I don't remember him shooting him.
But the
you
ball
never
guy,
see him again.
Yeah, you never see him again. So maybe you just killed him with a piece of wood.
Yeah, maybe he's breaking a 2x4 over the head, crushed his skull.
Johnny points a gun at J Bone, but the J Bone says he runs heaven, which like, what's that mean? But then they kind of part ways. Johnny attacks Ralphie in the bathroom at like this club or whatever, and his bodyguards knock out Johnny, which like Ralphie's like, not in the head. Then Jane sees them dragging Johnny away, and so she asks for some like, what the hell? I don't know what she asked for. I don't know. She goes in the bathroom and like, oh wait, no, she asked for like some tubes, which I don't know what they are. It's like, is that what
it's her weapon?
Oh, okay, yeah. The thing that like snaps into place and becomes like a fishing rod, razor blade or
knife
something
on the end of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Like somebody welded a straight razor on the end of a spring, or it's like, yeah, it's just it's weapons of the future.
But she gets into the ducks and starts sneaking around. Which I know normally I say like, yeah, you can't do that, but it's like, yeah, residential ducks can't fit a person. Commercial ducks can, but generally they don't get to a room that big.
Yeah.
Although I found out there's a funny term for like rooftop units, like where there's a opening that goes into the building. They will put like crossbars on it, and they literally call them burglar bars.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure it's happened. You got to have a real strong sense of not being afraid of being in small places to do that.
I mean, you just get in there and you just beat the shit out of the ductwork, and then just prepare for a fall, and then you're in a room.
Yeah. Just hope it's not a room full of spikes.
Johnny wakes up on he's like on plastic. Ralphie sold out Johnny to the Yakuza. They want his whole head, so they got a whole device there to cut it off. Although it also has like, I don't know, cryo fluid in it, or what do you call that?
They basically put liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, liquid nitrogen.
Sinister, yeah.
Yeah. Then Jane jumps down. She knocks out Shinji, who's like kind of the head Yakuza guy that's working for Takahashi. or is just constantly disappointing Takahashi.
Yeah.
This is played by Dennis Akiyama, who's just like a famous, like Canadian star, I guess. He's in it. It's a sci-fi movie. Put him in there.
Yeah.
And then Jane saving him. This basically, she like negotiates a job for Johnny, so now she's bodyguard for Johnny. Johnny runs. Shinji gets out. He has like this, his thumb got cut off, and so now he has like he has a replacement thumb that has like this monofilament in it. It's basically like a laser filament that you can just cut through anything, and it's really
It's
cool.
like a lightsaber,
Yeah,
but it doesn't go out straight. It's like a whip.
Yeah.
And it becomes a garrote at one point. It seems like something wildly dangerous to wield, even to the user, let alone its ability to cut through anything.
Yeah, it's like he just slices like in like a diagonal cleave and just cleaves Udo or Ralphie in pieces. Which this monofilament garrote looks super awesome in this version of the movie because it just looks like red blotches in the normal version. Here it's like, oh, this is like cutting space and time because they give it a super high contrast, so it's just like white stuff slicing through things, and it's like really neat.
Yeah.
Then Shinji tries to give chase, but he gets held up by Bone and his crew. And then Johnny and Jane run into the sewer. Because that's where you gotta be. That's where you gotta be runaway.
Well, the low-techs are hiding like rats in walls, remember?
Well, actually, they're hiding in a bridge, which is weird.
Seems very, very Escape from New York. Like,
yeah. But yeah, I guess an apocalyptic future city, you just got to go in the sewer because Jane wants to make sure she gets her money, and then so she's staying around with Johnny because Johnny's like, yeah, I'll give you the money, just give me a bank account number. She's like, nah, I'm not trusting that. And then like along the way, she's like kind of like antagonizing him, and she ends up like shining a light in his eyes, and here he starts convulsing, and it's like the cranial leakage is starting to get to him. We cut to Takahashi in the tower. He gets a message from the internet telling him he needs to like get Johnny or he'll look weak.
Yeah.
Which this character's explained later on, but it's like, wait, what was that?
It's the weird lady that like appears.
Yeah.
And she's like a AI, but you don't find that out until like the end of the movie almost.
Yeah. We cut to Johnny wake up. Johnny talks about how he had to dump long-term memory to put the implant in, so he got rid of his childhood. Which just is a great little bit. It's like, oh yeah, what if you had a bad childhood? It's like you could use that to your advantage. It's like, I'll be a data broker and I don't remember my terrible childhood.
Yeah, what's that movie? That weird movie with the guy, Ace Ventura guy, Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Was it Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and they edit your memories? It's like, well, yeah, that could be a good thing. He seems to regret it for some reason.
Although by the end of the movie, it kind of suggests that he had a fine childhood, so I guess that's even more like
yeah, the way
sad.
He lives and looks and carries himself, he seems like someone accustomed to like a very upper middle class life.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he's willing to do anything to retain that.
Yeah.
Because he feels like somewhere inside himself it's the right thing.
So Johnny needs a computer. I need a computer.
Yeah.
So they find a place with a computer.
With his hands in her face. I need a computer.
Which I guess William Gibson, like when he goes places, like techies will like say that line to him aggressively.
Is it true he doesn't use the internet or anything, or is that just an urban legend?
Why? I don't know, Nathan. Did you watch the video?
What about?
That accompanied to this DVD where they're all talking together?
Yeah, I mean, I know they were on like a call thing.
Yeah.
But he also wasn't at his house. I've heard like he doesn't.
Oh, okay.
He was in his house and stuff.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. I would believe it.
I never know. Sometimes you hear it's like, oh, William Gibson, basically the inventor of like all the terms that we use nowadays. oh, it's weird he doesn't use a computer. And it's like, well, is that a logical, or is that like a logical fallacy, or is that true? I don't know.
Yeah.
I should probably send him an
I
email. Bill,
I mean, I don't know how successful he is, or how much he's cashed in with his stories that have become more popular, but like he's 75, so I doubt he needs to do anything he doesn't want to. So
that's true.
um,
Well, it's just like for years they said, oh, Cormac McCarthy won't only uses like manual typewriters and stuff, and then you find out like, oh no, he's used computers in the 80s. It's like that's just a story people tell.
yeah, sometimes you gotta build your own mythos to make you. It's like, oh, he just sits there and writes. That's it. Like we got to make it more interesting. Like,
He only writes with a quill and one.
yeah, it's like what's his name? Um, what's the boy and the dog guy?
Oh, Harlan Ellison.
Yeah, like Harlan Ellison has to get in a fist fight before he writes something
Yeah.
or something.
Gotta hold someone at gunpoint.
He's got. He can't live until he like enacts some litigation against somebody who vaguely had the same idea as him.
Love Harlan Ellison. Only because I never got sued by him or had to talk to him. I love the idea of Harlan Ellison. I also like his writing a lot, but yeah.
Yeah.
Guys like that are just like larger than life.
Yeah,
But
it's
also
like
he seems like a guy like if you met him and you weren't bothering him, he would be the coolest person ever.
yeah.
Unless you're like, hey, can I like write a story about our conversation and make money off of it? It's like, not unless you're cutting me in. You know? It's like there seems to be like lines there like most normal human beings would never cross. So there's no reason for fans not to like Harlan Ellison.
And somewhere in my mind, it's like I'm always imagining Harlan Ellison as like Patton Oswalt's abusive father, who's like better than him in almost every way.
Yeah.
Except comedy.
I'm sending an email to Patton Oswalt. It's like, hey, can we like write a play about you and your dead father? My father, yeah, you know, Harlan Ellison. We put this together on our own. That seems like the kind of weirdness he would enjoy. That would be great.
No, unfortunately, my dad was a test pilot for the Marine Corps.
Yeah. His dad was actually a badass. He's even sadder than if he was an abusive sideline. Oh. Life and the twists and turns.
Johnny knocks all the stuff off the desk with a computer because, like, you see a computer screen, he knocks all that off, so he's not going to use any of that. He just needs the space. They grab a bunch of text that goes around. Here I wrote one of them. It's called the Thompson iPhones.
Yeah.
Which I'm not exactly sure what that is. I'm not sure what that part is because there's like the gloves, there's the helmet. I'm guessing maybe this is like the modem is called the iPhone or something like that, and data gloves.
iPhones.
Oh, okay. It is a helmet.
That's what I thought. But.
Makes sense.
And Thompson Consumer Electronics was also known as RCA at one time, and
so
it's like they make TVs. So, but I'm way older than you, so that's why I would.
I remember RCA. They used to have the RCA Dome in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it was Thompson Consumer Electronics that was who made the TVs in Marion, Indiana, and they employed like a bunch of people, and they all got paid really good money. And then guess what happened? It all went overseas, and everyone got on heroin, and nobody knows what's wrong.
It's all mystery.
Well, they should have gone to Harvard and become heart surgeons instead of being dumb factory workers. Right, we all should do that right now.
Yeah, the job market totally needs 1 million heart surgeons.
I would love if that. Well, you know about the nursing crisis. We're in nursing crisis 2.0 now, right?
Okay, well, what's it now?
Okay, well, the original nursing crisis, like when my wife got into nursing, is there's not enough nurses.
Yeah.
And so they started expanding nursing schools and also the responsibilities of nurses to do more and more and more. Those nurses do more now than they ever have. And, you know, because they just like,
basically doctors without the pay.
No, not quite doctors, but it's they do more than they ever did before. And now nursing crisis 2.0 is not, we don't have enough nurses. That's still the ongoing crisis. The other thing climbing up the chart is we have to turn down 36,000 applicants a year to nursing colleges because we don't have any instructors anymore because all the instructors retired. And no, guess what? Nobody nobody's anxious to get in there and make $35,000 a year teaching nursing, and they can make $75,000 a year nursing.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's no solution to this problem. We simply can't do anything about it. We are. We'll go on.
Then we get on the Norwegian nurse pipeline to America.
Well, we've tried all that. Well, they need them over there. The same problem over there too. Everything's about to reach its final state. We are. All anthropology and history always studies the end of civilizations. That's when it's the most interesting, is how it ends. That's what we know the most about. And I think we're getting to the point now where it's like, oh, this is how this ends. And not just America, just I think the whole thing is going to have to change somehow.
Remember that the Chinese idiom of "May you live an interesting time" is a curse, and not a not like "Hey, let's have a cool adventure."
Yeah, interesting times. It's like, oh, I'm going to the mountain with Frodo to throw the ring in. It's like, no, it's not going to be like that. You don't get to die with your friends. I like the other Chinese idiom about living long enough to see the bodies of your enemies float by in the river or something. That, like, I know in some places people would see that as like, oh, that would be cool to see. And it's like, no, you got to drink that water, dumbass. There's a corpse floating in it. That was actually a problem in China one time. They had so many bodies in the Yangtze River, it was like everyone was getting sick. Because it's like people just throw the bodies in the river and let the river take them. It's like, well, that can happen if there's like one or two of them, but not if there's like a million. That becomes a problem. But anyway, back to the movie.
How do we make Fight Club soap out of this?
Yeah.
I guess that was from the that was from the people burned, and then their cinders went into the river. I can't remember. Is that how it goes?
What's that?
But talk about how like they discovered soap was by like the burning people's sacrifices, and then like the fat like getting rendered into the water and then becoming tallow or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, there was something like, I know it was like it was an offshoot of something horrible.
Yeah, but I thought it had something to do with like sacrifices and the river and like fire and fat, something like that.
Well, the secret of soap and making it out of tallow was it was basically to offset the lye, because the tallow would like moisturize your skin and the lye would kill the bacteria and stuff. That's why it worked. But yeah, so theoretically, like in the Fight Club universe, if you rated like a
liposuction clinic,
sucking the fat out of people, yeah, it's like, oh, that would be, you could actually make the best soap out of that, because instead of animal tallow, it's like, it's human fat. What's going to moisturize your skin better than human fat? But I've actually heard like in real life it would break down too quickly or something, so I don't know. Never had access to enough human remains to be like, write an angry missive to Chuck. You lied to me. You probably appreciate like the truth. Somebody actually did that. That's cool.
Oh wow, somebody responded to me without stealing money from me.
Yeah.
Were you telling me that, or did I read that something? Basically, like Chuck Palahniuk's basically broke because all the people that represented him stole all his money.
I heard about it on some of the last of the good Joe Rogan stuff before it became, before it reached its next stage. Back when Joe Rogan was cool, before it became you're fat.
Not cool, but irresponsible and fun, and nobody paid attention to him for like advice.
Yeah. I mean, it's still cool if you get the right guests.
Yeah.
But it's like after a while, it's like, I get it, Joe. I'm fat. Thanks. I'm gonna die early. Great. Now let's talk about UFOs and taking mushrooms.
I forget what I was. I think there was something on Reddit where they were talking about like, what's the worst thing a doctor's ever said to you? Some guy, he's like tall, he's like 6'8" or something like that, and and I forget, he's giving him some prognosis, and he was like, "Is that bad?" It's like, "Don't worry, you're not gonna live to your 70." And he's like, "Why do you say that?" It's like, "Oh, because you're tall. You ever see tall old people?" He's like, "Touche, doctor."
That heart's beating like a drum.
um, so yeah, Johnny makes a call through the internet, and when we say internet here, it's like a 3D world with a bunch of shit flying all over the place, numbers
Yeah, he
and
has to
things.
fight the lawnmower man at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
That kind of that is that world, the lawnmower man world of the internet.
He's got to do some puzzle to get into the hotel. um, so Johnny's trying to find the facts with the access code because yeah, I forgot to bring up this point. So there's like a code to Johnny's implant that is like 3 images, and the images was being faxed to some place, which I'm guessing here it's Pharmacon, or where were they? Because they ends up at
They
Pharmacon.
were faxing it to the Lotex in Newark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because Takahashi has one of them,
Yeah.
so it was being faxed to him, right?
No, it was being faxed to the Lotex.
You sure?
Yeah, because they were going to release the info because they know all about or not the Lotex. It was to Spider's group.
Okay, okay.
They were going to. It was because Spider, because the people at the hotel worked for Pharmacon, and they figured out like, oh, this is the cure for this disease that's killing half the world, and and actually the cure is put aluminum foil around the Wi-Fi router. You don't find that out till later. No, it's so yeah, this like those people were going to fax it to Spider's medical group, who were going to use the low text to make the information public. So because I guess everyone could manufacture whatever it is that proves this. So it's like, oh, okay, because this is based on the conspiracy of like, oh, the pharmaceutical companies and the FDA actually have the cure to cancer, but it would hurt their bottom line too much to release it, so they'd rather just treat cancer with expensive
Yeah,
treatments. And
more money in the treatment than the cure. So
yeah, and it's kind of like that same logic. Like Ford has the patent to a carburetor that would get 500 miles to the gallon, but they colluded with the oil companies because keep the price of gas high or something. It's like, okay, there's no carburetor that will get that kind of mileage because those damn laws of thermodynamics keep intruding. And also, Ford, if it had something like that, they would be the first, last, and only car company left on the planet because everyone would want that technology. And if the oil companies went bankrupt, they would just buy the oil companies and make that part of their business too. So it's like, yeah, all these conspiracies about this star chamber that holds technology and data back, they're always hokum because actually the real money is in like breakthrough technology.
yeah.
Because they didn't invent the internet and then like quickly like, oh, we've got to keep this for the U.S. government only to use. It's like, no, this actually gave us a few more years of life to the old United States. But now that's over. So
Although there are people that are like attributed to like, we came up with an alternative fuel, like we can run your car on water, and then those people have weird like endings where it's like, wait, why did they die? It's just easy to be like, oh, the oil companies killed them.
no, instead of the fact like, no, they're paranoid schizophrenics, and those
Yeah.
people always die in weird ways
Yes.
because it's like, oh, he fell down the side of a cliff. Isn't that convenient? It's like, well, no, he's crazy. He was probably like hanging out there, and the UFO came to him, and he walked off the side of the cliff. But yeah. I mean, look, I love some conspiracy theories too. I love that stuff. But it's like some of this stuff is like, oh, everything you hear is like, well, we were just talking about how the federal alert thing for the nuclear attack that's about to happen or whatever, they got to test that out. And it's like, no, that's a way to destroy your appliances. Oh, okay.
And activate the virus in you.
And activate the virus. Yeah, we are all zombies now.
So yeah, Johnny has to get these 3 images to access so he can transfer the information out of his head, or else he's gonna die.
Yeah.
Johnny gets traced by Pharmacon. They figure out he's at Crazy Bob's computer shop. Then they cut to Shinji. He says, "Initiate the virus," which not exactly sure what that means, but well, he's talking to some guy named Strike in the internet, and then the internet starts to disappear. So that's the virus essentially. Um,
Isn't there an
Johnny,
alert that says virus uploaded? It's like, that
yeah.
sounds a little on the nose. Could you say like Cobra initiated? Sinister.
Yeah, is this the black ice you're talking about? What's going on? So Johnny now knows he's
Black
being
Ice
chased.
was a huge feature of Shadowrun, the
Oh
role
yeah.
playing techno punk cyberpunk game, which had some of the coolest writing and art books. Actually, all those role playing games from the 80s and 90s had amazing writing and artwork in them. I was the only guy I knew who bought the games just to read the books. It's like, oh, who are you playing this with? It's like, oh, nobody. I can't stand people. Love the art and the writing and stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
because
really?
Shadowrun kind of like thrown together like cyberpunk and like Lord of the Rings, right? Like it was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what if an elf had like an eye implant and a laser gun?
Yes, there were. What happened was some Native Americans did a shamanistic dance, and magic came back to the world. And there were elves, men, and orcs, and and then there were like wizards and stuff. But everyone was the same. And then some people just got turned into this stuff when the magic was released. So
Okay.
that's why the whole world is screwed up because you're like your mom turned into an orc or something, or your wife. It's like, well, I'm out of here. This isn't for me anymore. So yeah, that was. But the world of Shadowrun was, yeah, that was it was very. I mean, they just took things right out of Neuromancer, and it's like, nope, it's this now. Yeah.
Yeah, because also like cyberpunk that was like started in the '80s too, right? The RPG.
I believe so. I believe that's it. See, it's weird because cyberpunk is one of those things like it started in the 60s and 70s. Like you can see the nascent foundations of it. That because once what they call the clean hallways era of sci-fi stopped, when it's like, oh, the future became cleaner, brighter, and just white hallways you walk down. Now, once that disappeared, which like Star Wars kind of started that visually, then it kind of then it's like the term cyberpunk came to be. It's like, oh, this is a future world, but it's basically grafted over the top of the world we live in, and it's darker and bleaker and dirtier, or at least equally as dirty as our world, but you have holograms and stuff like that. Whereas before then, everything was kind of what they called like the white hallways future. Like, yeah, everything gets neater as you go on, or like kind of like Star Trek, the TV
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
Like everything,
Utopian future rather than
yeah, it's like what's cleaning the walls all the time? You got like little doing it. Like, why is everything so clean? It's like, but then that vaporized, and then the term cyberpunk came from, and now we have all kinds of punk stuff.
yeah, yeah.
But that basically means you're adapting, like it's all retrofuturism, that kind of punk stuff, except cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is its own kind of weird animal, but everything else like atom punk, diesel punk, steampunk, that's all retrofuturism. But cyberpunk is kind of like that's where punk
Well,
gets
it's like
attached to everything. But
yeah, like most of punk stuff is like we want the same ability of the future. We just want the mechanism or the yeah, the mechanism or the no, what do you call it? The medium in which it happens is like far different. So it's like,
yeah,
oh, we got a cool computer too. It's just this one's powered by Steam.
yeah.
It's an AI powered by Steam and relays.
And interestingly, William Gibson wrote one of the first books that I know of that is like captures like the steampunk aesthetic. It's called The Difference Engine. It would be like, what if, after the Civil War, somebody made a computer that was essentially steam powered? It was basically like a Babbage computer, which was just a big calculator. But
Yeah.
what if this one was like even more elaborate, and it could present like light images and stuff like projected onto a cloth or something? And it was not the most exciting book, but just kind of an interesting alternate history novel. But some people are like, yeah, that was basically steampunk before it was steampunk. So it's weird that like the same author is associated with two genres that he didn't invent the terms for, but
Yeah,
it's like everyone points to him and says,
yeah.
"Yeah, this is the guy," and he's like, "No, I'm not the guy. Actually, it becomes this and that." And then we have like the what's the one, like the atom punk, and then we have like the Soviet like nostalgia stuff. Like that's a whole genre too, and yeah, so that's yeah.
Old Punk verse. You got CM Punk.
Yeah. Well,
um,
like cyberpunk, like it's like it has these tent poles that make the pyramid. Like for the written words, you have the Sprawl trilogy. I would definitely say was part of it. There's a bunch of other books I could name that nobody's ever heard of that I've read, but I won't bore everyone to death. And then visually, you have like one of the paces of the pillars, of course, Blade Runner. Like that really established it. And then also the original Star Wars too, kind of as a like, oh, this grimy techno future. I mean, it's far, far away. It's not like the human future on Earth, but it was that look, the aesthetic is part of that too. Until it's finally, it kind of reached its zenith and what it is now. Um, but yeah, it all started with Blade Runner visually, and then of course we don't forget Max Headroom. Don't sleep on Max Headroom if you like these kind of movies.
um,
It's a weird DNA you'll clearly see running through everything that's almost shocking. It's like this is like really cool or very unoriginal. I don't know which. I'm not sold on it yet.
yeah, it's something unto itself because like nobody was famous before that happened.
No. And also Brazil. You can't forget Brazil, which
Yeah.
was more weird, cynical comedy. But yeah, really the Max Headroom TV show is just cynical sci-fi comedy too. But yeah, it's like, yeah, that all has that look, which evolved as time went on, of course. But yeah, it's still there
Um,
until it ends with the Matrix. But yeah, that's now we've
uh,
moved on to better things, right?
So yeah, Johnny now knows he's being chased by Pharmacom and the Yakuza. That lady pops out to warn Johnny. So like earlier, she seemed like she was trying to help Takahashi, and then here she's helping Johnny. So it's like, so seemingly she's trying to bring them together for some reason. So, um, then Jane tosses her grenade and kills some goons.
Yep.
Then Takahashi calls a preacher, it's Dolph Lundgren, who gives him
Yeah.
a contract to get Johnny's head.
Literally has 12 minutes of screen time in the whole movie.
Yeah, he gets like
Billed
second
as
bill.
like second billing, but I was
Yeah.
like, but I guess there was a long speech and a scene he was supposed to give that was never filmed or cut.
Huh.
No, I know he was supposed to give it completely nude in front of the crucifix of televisions. And basically, it was a speech about how he embraces the technology, but also uses the message of God to make it pure. I mean, complete schizophrenic nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
but it actually establishes more of the character and makes Dolph Lundgren would make him seem, as a better character.
Yeah.
Because Dolph Lundgren's real life is like super smart and could actually carry that off, like give
Yeah.
that speech pretty well. It's a shame it never happened.
Yeah, here's just a
Whatever
ridiculous
you think of this
collage of
guy, it's like
things.
he has like a master's degree in chemistry.
Yeah.
And he's also, I've heard him interviewed before, and it's like, oh, that guy's like next level in some ways. And he knows a lot about like lifting weights and being healthy and all that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean,
somehow.
that's what made his career. So he's
Yeah.
not gonna turn back on that. Johnny calls up some security guy or whatever, and he's like, so he's negotiating with some corporate guys, which he tells James like, yeah, they wouldn't want to kill him. They want to do what's best for business. But really, everyone's here the corporate person, so it really doesn't matter. But then Jane starts convulsing. Johnny says she's got NAS or the black shakes.
Yeah.
Then here she speaks of Spider being a doctor who can help Johnny. So then we cut to Johnny takes Jane to Spider's warehouse. Here Spider suggests like that technology is the cause of NAS.
Yeah.
So like it just existing, and eventually people it starts being generated. So that's the only clue you get. You don't know if he's right. It's just like.
I mean, look, it's what happened in Better Call Saul. So it's like, yeah.
Street Preacher, that is Dolph Lundgren's character's name. They talk about him. He's just full of implants. Like he's basically just a Terminator with a human brain. He's full of implants and very dangerous. We find out the lady in the internet is Anna Kalman, and so she's the founder of Pharmacon. She's dead, but her neural consciousness was uploaded into the internet, and she's like still like a an advisor to Pharmacom, but
She
apparently,
has Swiss citizenship.
yeah.
All artificial intelligences are given Swiss citizenship. That's a holdover from. That's from the. Is that Burning? Or no, which one is that from? It's one of the Sprawl books. I think it might have been the first one. Yeah.
Okay. It was great when I was looking up.
Neuromancer. That's a neuromancer. Yep. Or maybe
Okay.
it's in Count Zero. I'm not sure. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, so when I was looking up, like, should I get Burning Chrome on Audible, or was like, or should I just look it up? It's like, and they have a sample that plays the audio because I want to check it if it was any good, and it plays and it has a guy reading like the first couple of lines from Burning Chrome. And it's like just completely ridiculous. It's like, it was hot the night we burned Chrome.
Yeah.
um,
It's okay. Well, it's I mean I have it as a reader, and it's basically a lot of incomplete ideas,
yeah.
which is also it's interestingly that the Johnny Mnemonic story is from that because it is also a movie of incomplete ideas. It's like I transferred over completely unintentionally. It did the same damn thing. But
um,
I would recommend anyone buy it and read it if you like William Gibson. If you want to know where all the cool stuff came from, that's where it started.
um, yeah, that's what I refer to as a Ghost in the Machine, which gets me thinking of a Ghost in the Shell, which I looked it up and it came out the same year as this movie.
Yep.
So
Yes, it did.
very influential movie to me. So and to the Matrix.
Very influential movie overall.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it. I liked it. I actually liked it more than Akira.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Akira was cool, but it got so weird. It's like Ghost in the Shell at least managed to like hold it together through to the end. So
Yeah, yeah. It only gets extra weird in the sequel. So
yeah, I didn't really follow up on it.
oh, the sequel is like, I want to say it's terrible, but I haven't seen it in a long time. Maybe I just missed everything that it was doing. But it's basically just like a whole dream world, and like none of the characters are back, and it's like, oh, she's dead now. So, and now she's living as a child, and Bato is like raising her slash her friend. It's like, this is all weird. So it really took the TV show, which kind of put everything back together. It's like, let's give people what they want, and the TV show was brilliant. So
Yeah.
both
Yeah,
versions of it.
I have a weird relationship with anime from Japan. It's like sometimes it has such high highs for me and then such low lows. It's like,
Yeah.
I hate this style of storytelling, which I call Japanese brain damage. Like we're doing this and then we're doing this and then we're doing it was like, oh wait a minute, you can eliminate 50% of these ideas and this is going to be awesome, or you can keep all this stuff in and it's just going to be meh. It seems like that's the it's sometimes I wonder if there's something in the Japanese psyche where it's like we don't want to be too good. We'll have to hate ourselves. It's like why? Yeah, because it's like, oh, you have this great visual like eye for things. They're like being cool and big and crazy and just nuts ideas. It's like we're going with this because this is cool, and then the stories just they disintegrate and then they recohere into something else.
Yeah.
It's like a taco turning into a flower. It's like, why is this happening? It's kind of cool and disconcerting at the same time.
Um, Johnny wants to know if Spider can do brain implants. Spider says he doesn't do that much work in Newark. Then we got the street preacher is torturing a bartender for info. Here he shoves his robot hand, I believe, but he still can feel. So he shoves it into liquid nitrogen, breaks it. Here he's got a Jesus on a cross Bowie knife, which is, I don't know, brilliant and stupid all at the same time.
Yeah, like I said, right on the nose, but also like, yep, you're doing it.
It's violent Jesus. It's what he always wanted. Jesus came back as Rambo, right? So
yeah. All I know is this: when I watch Fox News, I know White Jesus is going to come cut my taxes. That's all I need to know.
um, then Johnny gets a brain scan, but it's not good news. Then Jane wakes up. She's ready to go. Now they're looking for Dr. Alcom, which, yeah, it's, it's like, what's that mean? And we'll find out. And let's see here. Oh yeah, and they leave, and like the hopping spiders like van with a bunch of shit glued to it,
Yeah.
and Street Preacher shows up and he just runs him over. So Spider knows like, yeah, I'm not fucking with that guy. Just run him over and leave. And of course, like almost nothing happens to Street Preacher because like I said, he's basically a Terminator. They go to a subway station, which is like an emergency medical clinic for the NAS. Here we realize, here he reveals that he puts a doctor's coat on, so he's like, oh, he's a doctor. He's like a real doctor. Um, and Dr. Alcom is like a hospital code, like, oh, every doctor everybody come to this room. It's like something bad is happening, so it's like an all on hands deck call that's not so obvious. They hook Johnny up to some machines. They try to decrypt the password, but Spider suggests a cranial extraction because this is where they learn that like Johnny's carrying the cure for NAS, and so if Johnny dies, it'll be gone forever. So Spider's like, "Hey, man, you could save a bunch of lives if we could just kill you right now." And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm not down with it."
Yeah. Yeah. Guess what? Because that is really not the Johnny character.
Yeah. Then Street Preacher shows up at the hospital. He starts fighting everyone. Johnny gets away again. And here he crucifies Spider at the hospital with like a bunch of knives. Which I guess technically he's not dead by the end of this, but you're pretty sure he is.
I don't think the guy's just going to leave him there and walk away.
I mean, there are other doctors there that could operate. So that had been the end of Act 2. So then we got Act 3. Johnny's making a deal with what he thinks is a corporate guy, but it's like really Takahashi. But here he's like has his hand over this like light thing, and he's like doing like hand motions, like he's talking with his hand. And he's apparently he's
sock puppet. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like I thought that was just like a fake image, but I think it's supposed to be like he has literal control of this guy who's talking with him. It's like that's even scarier. Yeah. Like, does this guy ever live, or is he just purely a puppet? Is he now dead because he got puppetized? Like, what's going on here? Yeah, it's kind of
dark. You're like, oh, because he takes his hand out of the field and the guy just flops over.
Yeah. Anna tries to convince Takahashi to get Johnny like for the cure, not for the money. And then Jane,
basically she's appealing to like make your daughter's death count for something.
Yeah.
Don't make it the end of your life and the end of everyone's life.
Which he gets mad anytime somebody brings up his daughter and tries to use it against him. Which understandably, it's like
I wouldn't. I'd start waving that 357 around too. Can we stop talking about this? I'm a Yakuza boss, for fuck's sake. You're not supposed to piss me off or try to appeal to my soft side.
Yakuza / pharmaceutical magnate.
I don't have these tattoos all over my body because I'm in touch with my emotions.
Jane and Johnny show up at a bridge looking for Jones. Which they don't know who Jones is yet. One of J Bone's guys or one of the low tech guys accidentally drop a car bomb on them, which is weird, but
this is literally a Volkswagen Beetle full of explosives.
Yeah,
it bursts into flames and then falls from the bridge and explodes. It's like a barrel bomb. It's like that's a weird attack. Okay.
Yeah, the guy says he's gonna drop a bug on him. Or here he's like joking, but then he just accidentally falls into the mechanism that releases it anyway. So.
Yeah, these guys are like idiots.
Yeah. Here, like this is like almost famous for this movie. Johnny has his tirade on the mound, where it's like this little like circular thing mound that he stands on, and he talks about like I want fucking room service and says all this stuff.
I want the club sandwich. I want the $3,000 a night prostitute. which is actually what I thought was cool about this. I'm going to tell you why I liked it in the movie, and then we can talk about what we heard on the commentary.
Yeah,
What's cool about this is like this is who this character is, has, and was the whole time.
yeah,
This is like him saying, like, yes, I'm not the hero of civilization. I'm not experiencing this catharsis everyone is expecting me to, because I'm a guy who does what he wants to survive.
yeah,
I don't take sides and get involved in this nonsense because it's all pointless, and it's like, yeah, he's right. It's kind of like it makes sense in this world and our world, unfortunately, but yeah, in this world especially, it makes sense.
yeah. Like some of the behind the scenes stuff suggests that this was an like not necessarily unscripted moment, but yeah, it was unscripted, or they wrote it on the day.
Yeah, William
Uh,
Gibson wrote it out the night before, and then Keanu Reeves basically remembered and revised it as he was delivering it.
yeah. And this was kind of like them venting frustration about the production of the movie. So,
Yeah.
so
I
it's
love the Keanu Reeves thing when he was talking about being in production meetings and he was looking at the guy like, so do you hate this movie or you want to make it? Like, what are we doing here? That was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's yeah. Hollywood is just so strange where it seems like they're so enthusiastic to buy a movie and then so enthusiastic about destroying everything that's unique about it and making it look exactly like last year's blockbuster. It's like does this ever work for you guys? Like what movie did you take and just turn it into something that's not and then you guys made billions of dollars?
I mean, that's a story they tell themselves. It's like, oh, we've done that. It's like,
um then J-Bone descends down and he picks up Johnny and Jane. Johnny is like getting sicker, which I got there was a physical thing that Keanu Reeves did here where he like intentionally like kept like not exactly starving himself but losing weight throughout the production, so by the end of it he would look kind of like gaunt and weird.
yeah.
um Here we got Jane and Johnny share a kiss, which just kind of just seems out of nowhere, and it's like, well, you just need that for the movie. So I don't know if this is necessarily a deserved kiss, but it happened. So whatever. I mean, they both seem like doomed characters, so it's like, why not?
Yeah, I mean, they've been through some stuff together.
Yeah, yeah.
There seems to be some chemistry there. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, that's that last minute. It's like, well, let's get this out before the darkness consumes us all. Got to get one more in.
Yeah, then J Bone shows up. I'm like, yeah, we got rooms for that, but anyways, we got to go get this shit out of your head. Heaven is like a city built in a bridge out of like stuff from the world down below. So yeah, it's weird. Like they're like in between the bridge, but like it's a set, so it's weird. Because presumably they're supposed to be like 50 feet below you, and like you're on a river, and like it just seems like you're in a room somewhere in Canada. But oh well.
Yeah, and it seems like a position that could be very defensible and also like very indefensible at the same time.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
they're all in there, and it's their
yeah,
base. It's like, well, okay, let's set it on fire and just wait for them to come out.
I mean, it's already a collapsed bridge.
Yeah.
So,
And they obviously have helicopters in this world. It's like, yeah, just start dumping gas in there, and like that's it. What are they gonna do? Shoot an arrow at your helicopter?
so they talk about like low tech, and they kind of steal useful data and broadcast it to the world, so like average people can use that data for presumably good. I don't know. I wish that's how it worked. That's how it works in the real world.
Well, they're like all these like alternate groups. It's like we're getting the word out to the people.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's been working out great, obviously, from the way this world is. I mean, we say that cynically and laugh, and that yet in our world, we still live in a fairly open society where information flows freely. We know who's screwing us, and like those buildings aren't being burned down. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, okay, at least these people are actively doing something.
Yeah, but I wish like modern hackers would release like some therapy AI into the world, and then you can go get therapy at home.
Yeah.
That never happens.
Yeah, it's like I want Anonymous to like send me some. It's like, Nathan, I want to help you achieve clarity. Then I would explain back to him. It's like, I've achieved transcendence. What do you mean? It's like, it's not even an epiphany. It's not a strong enough word. It's an apotheosis. Computer, I claim the Godhead for myself. How'd you do that, Nathan? It's like, I realize nothing does matter as long as you don't get caught. And then the computer kills itself. And it's like, sorry. I revealed a secret. It's just proof that therapy doesn't work on crazy people.
Then Johnny meets Jones, who is a Navy modified dolphin who's like the ultimate code breaker.
Yeah.
Jones is a cool character and idea, not really acted out or not really utilized well here.
And that's actually a real thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I have no idea. It's not a real thing, but it's certainly.
Well, not being dolphin hackers, but they didn't they do stuff with dolphins and mines and shit?
Yeah, they wanted them to stick mines on the side of Soviet submarines.
Oh, is that just an idea? They didn't do anything with it?
Well, I mean, we know about it, so it either did or didn't. Just remember, whenever they talk about something, like, remember the Glomar Explorer was not specifically built to retrieve a Soviet submarine, and it failed the whole time, except it succeeded, and they lied about it. And it's like, okay, and that is real. So,
which I guess is
kind of like the principle of, like, did the Russians train German shepherds to crawl under German tanks and have mines on their back that would detonate when they crawled under them? Yeah, they did that. And that's cold-blooded and ruthless, but also they were fighting the Nazis. So it's like,
the original drones.
Yeah. And then we had those bats. Remember those bats that escaped? They all had a little charge on them.
Oh no, I don't remember.
Yeah, we put little charges on the bats, little napalm charges on the backs of bats, and a bunch of them escaped, and they flew into a church, and they said, oh, these things could be out in the woods somewhere in Texas. So they flipped the switch, and the church burned to the ground. It's like, well, proof of concept, because they were going to release them in Japan in World War II because we hadn't used enough fire in Japan.
But I think at this time a talking dolphin I guess the dolphin doesn't really talk, but like a modified dolphin would make more sense to me because Sequest had the similar thing there.
Yeah.
Which I think was out at this time.
Yeah, probably.
Don't know. Let's look up. When did Sequest come out?
I remember watching a bunch of those.
93, so yeah, it would have been out.
Yeah.
I think that's yeah.
Didn't it change in its later seasons where it just became a military show?
Yeah, well, like they get like shoved to the future and they have to like save the world without like a government behind them and stuff like that. And
okay, I knew it was
something
weird.
Like that. It's also one of those shows I felt like it had 6 seasons, but I think it only has like 3.
Yeah.
That was like a Spielberg associated show, and like it was really expensive, and so yeah. No, a show I liked when I was a kid. I'm sure if I watch it now, I'd just be embarrassed by it, but whatever.
What did I get out of this?
Shinji's gang show up. They have rocket launchers and everything. They get, and we come back to like they got inside the base. They got like basically it's like an electric chair for Johnny to sit in, so Jones can pull some codes out of his head. The Yakuza start their attack. Johnny and Jones are in the internet trying to get the data out. Which it's again, there's a bunch of shapes and stuff flying around. It's kind of just...
And it's cool because there's a dolphin swimming around.
Yeah.
Virtual dolphin.
Johnny gets knocked from the chair before they can decipher the code. Then Takahashi shows up and they like have like a showdown with Johnny. And then Anna pops into like this, there's just like this tornado of screens behind them. And she pops up in that, and then she's like saying like Pharmacom is responsible for his daughter's death from NAS. Then Shinji shows up and kills Takahashi. Then it's a fight between Shinji gang and Johnny and Jane. Shinji and Johnny end up like falling over an edge, and then Johnny's able to grab like his laser thumb Garrett thing and cuts Shinzi's own head off with it. So, and then Street Preacher shows up and starts choking Jane. And then Takahashi is still alive, and so he hands the rest of the code to Johnny before he just dies. So then, he has some redemption before he goes. Then Street Preacher starts crucifying with Jane because she literally has like nails that she uses as weapons, and he's
she can throw one through someone's skull.
So he's crucifying her with that, and then Johnny interrupts. Jane uses like the satellite dishes that are hooked up to Jones to like destroy Street Preacher. It's just some microwave of danger that they hit him with.
It's supposed to be ripping the implants out of him, but they didn't really have the special effects budget.
Yeah.
And also, this movie isn't like incredibly gory. They did seem to tone that down a little bit. Because even when Udo Kier gets sliced up like lunch meat, they only show him like initially sliding apart, and then the camera cuts away.
Yeah. And then
Street Preacher's death was kind of a combination of low budget and low gore, so it's like, his skin's rippling. It's not really that impressive.
And then suddenly he's on fire or electrocuted, and then he's just gone. He's just a charred remains. They hook Johnny back into the machine. Anna tells them to hurry, because like Pharmacom has been killing off Anna's digital consciousness like one memory at a time, so she's like fading into non-existence.
And she has flames coming from the back, being burned alive.
Low Tech starts broadcasting the cure to the world at the same time, like they decipher the code. There's like a CGI battle here that's being narrated by J-Bone. It's like I see, he's making a double. it's all kind of embarrassing, but whatever.
Yeah, it's the silliest part.
And then Johnny's like starts to get like his childhood memories back, and I wrote, "Is Anna his mom?"
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
His childhood.
Okay.
The founder of Pharmacon is his mother.
So really, he should be like, be living the high life and being some weird artist, and not like being some like dirty data courier.
Yeah, data whore. Put your data in my mind hole. Not the life you should be living.
Johnny like falls out of the chair, like kind of like slumps out of it. It's like, is he dead? But then he gains consciousness. And then we see like the Pharmacom tower is set on fire in the background, which is kind of like you said, like, yeah, we set the place on fire that has the capacity to make the cure, unless the cure can just be delivered digitally. We have no idea. I don't know.
It's aluminum foil around the Wi-Fi. That's all it is.
And then there's a great like Street Preacher fake out where it's like his body starts to rise up again, and they cut to wide. It's just being pulled up in a crane and tossed into the river.
Yeah, last line of the movie is J-Bone like, get that piece of crap out of here.
Yeah.
And they throw him into the water and then cut the credits. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Line.
I know. I think they have like I think Johnny and Jane kind of stare at the like the sun or the horizon. I think that's the last moment or whatever. I can't remember.
Oh, okay. The last spoken word though.
Yeah.
Which is like, was that intentional to say like, this is how much we hated this movie making it?
But yeah, that's the end of the movie. That's the end of Johnny Mnemonic in black and white.
A movie with a lot of ideas, and it didn't follow through on any of them.
But Nathan, the ultimate question: did the movie in black and white make it better and more significant?
Yeah, actually, it did.
Okay.
I watched it again, and I didn't feel like it was a chore to watch it. This was not a movie I have revisited a lot or really care about. That's why when it showed up at my door, I was like, "Oh, what's this?" But I'll tell you, after watching it again, it's like, "Oh, okay." I don't regret. I didn't feel like I wasted my time.
I mean, it's only an hour and a half movie, so that's another good thing.
It's not a very long movie, but it was definitely. I enjoyed it, as an elderly man. Watching it, it was kind of fun.
Yeah, this is my first time watching it all the way through because, like I said, I've seen the ending of this like 16 times because it was always on before NBA on TNT would come on, so I had no context for giant. I did watch that hour-long like MTV special about this movie, so I knew like the calling sequence in virtual reality, which gets like brought up a bunch now because and even nowadays it gets brought up again anytime virtual reality comes out. They bring up that scene from Johnny Mnemonic where it's like dialing a phone in VR. It's like that seems wildly unnecessary.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're extra stepping.
um, but yeah, the VR, yeah, it weirdly, because like I watched the trailer too, and it's in color on the DVD here on the Blu-ray, and it's like, oh yeah, this movie just seems far more important and interesting in black and white than it did
Yeah.
in just color, because it just looked like a movie from the '90s when it's in color.
Yeah.
And like you said, like the director's intent was kind of make something like Alphaville, and it does kind of have that kind of vibe to it of like it seems older. It seems like a movie with a big budget in the '40s, or it seems like an independent crew got a bunch of money and they spent all their money making the best sets they could, and then what money they had left over they spent on like 16 millimeter black and white film.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes a movie instead of, like I said, just another '90s dystopian sci-fi film. It becomes yeah, it seems to have weight to it. It's like, oh, they plan these scenes out, for black and white and all that. It's like, no, none of that happened. It's purely imagining it, but
Yeah,
it it works.
and there's
It's
like
it's fun.
and then there's a couple movies you can kind of compare it to, especially how they run with contrast. Is like one is just Eraserhead, although Eraserhead is just weird, so it doesn't really approach that, but just kind of like a bunch of shit glued together and garbage everywhere in black and white. The other thing it gets compared to in black and white is Tetsuo the Iron Man, which is like a kind of like a cult classic Japanese horror movie. I don't know if you've ever heard or seen that.
What happens in it?
It's like a guy gets infected with like kind of like I don't know, like sex metal, and then he gets like metal starts growing on him and being gathered to him, and he kind of becomes a weird like metal monster.
Yes, I have seen that. Okay, I've seen that because he doesn't know what's going on. Yeah, and people start dying.
I don't know, I've only seen parts of it. I've never actually seen it in whole. So it's very like Cronenberg, but just kind of a weird '80s Japanese movie.
Yeah,
Very also very Sam Raimi, where it's like that kind of like we're doing almost stop motion animation with people kind of thing. um, but yeah. I can't really tell you to check it out. You have to buy the Blu-ray,
yeah. I
which
mean, if you're going to jump into this, you can. But
I mean, I think it was like $16, so it's not that expensive, I don't think, or maybe it was even less than that. I don't know how long it'll be available, so if you want to get in on the bandwagon, you might want to do it now. So, well, Nathan, we're seeing a probe into space containing the supercut of scenes
we
from.
already know it's the speech on the dirt man.
Okay.
I mean, it describes two things perfectly. It describes the character in the movie and what his real motivations are and were, and it also describes how the people making the movie felt about the movie and the process of making it. So it's like, yeah, that's the perfect probe movie.
Yeah. Although, like, I like how like they're very open about like how this production sucked. Although Keanu Reeves felt like the way he talks about it, it seems like he was like guarded by the production sucking because he felt like he could still, operate with some artist intent. But
Yeah,
the director said he just like everything was a fight. Like he said, like that scene in the bathroom where has the overhead shot of Johnny going into the bathroom. He said that was like a half a day fight just to get that shot in there, rather than the producers being like, "Yeah, let's film it and see what happens," and the producer just like, "No, let's argue about this all day until we eventually do it."
yeah. That seems like when I hear about stuff like that, it's like, oh, they were trying to get people to quit.
Oh,
It sounds like that's what they really wanted. I mean, I don't know if
apparently,
that's the case, but
oh yeah, apparently one of the bad producers like offered like assistant director or second unit director, like he offered him the directing job basically like a day into production. But yeah, that's got to give confidence to your crew.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes everyone feel like that's not getting around the whole set.
but there was one good producer because one of the reasons it happened is one of the producers on this that he was still friends with, Robert Longo. He called him up and he's like, "Hey, can I work on this?" And he's like, "Let me call Sony." And they're like, Sony's like, "Yeah, here are the masters. Like, go have fun, whatever. We're not doing anything with it." I mean, if you're literally not going to change the movie and only like make a special colorized edition of it or uncolorized edition of it, like go ahead. um, but yeah, I don't. But they didn't really. They talk about these producers being assholes and the things they did, but they didn't name names. They didn't say what producer was a complete asshole that ruined everything. So we could like, oh, what was their track record? What else do they work on? Why does Hollywood not work? Like we never get that stuff because if you name names, then you're blacklisting yourself from Hollywood. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can do that. It's your opinion. It's not provable, but yeah, they're not going to.
Yeah, well, we never worked at Hollywood again, so I don't know why he cares. I mean, I guess he cares because he wanted to put this movie out. So, um, yeah, I don't even know how well it did. I don't know how well this is doing. It just kind of seemed popped up on the internet for a moment. And it's like that's a weird thing, and and it's weirdly a lot of the stuff still has some relevance today. So that's what makes this movie kind of a bit that it has relevance at all kind of lends some authenticity to it. It's like, oh, okay.
Well, that's the thing about kind of. I don't know if you'd say. I don't know. It's not a resurgence in '90s sci-fi, but it's like, it's kind of like the hokiness of like Blade Runner, like the original Blade Runner. It's like, oh, well, we're 3 years past the actual Blade Runner now. I don't see any cars flying around or any replicas. Now there's reasons, but also with like 90s low budget or medium budget dystopian sci-fi, it's like, oh, this seems like a ridiculous premise. And it's like, oh no, now it actually doesn't. It seems like we are heading towards not the exact version of it, but something like it.
Yeah, we're not at implants yet, but
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff that didn't work, and then some of it that did, and some of it that's like, oh, the technology's not there yet, but it's also like, yeah, but there's other stuff that's like way far ahead
yeah.
of what,
Yeah, everything's in a cell phone now, which is compact and can last a day. It's not hooked to a wall or anything like that. So
Yeah.
that kind of supersedes a lot of stuff. Yeah, this was also like kind of start of Keanu Reeves like cyberpunk sci-fi career because it goes on this and then like then the Matrix becomes a whole thing, and then even recently he plays Johnny Silverhand in the Cyberpunk 2077 video game.
Yeah.
So it's just if you want cyberpunk stuff, you just get Keanu Reeves.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, he was here at the middle of the genre and he was there at the end. They sent it out in style with the Matrix.
And what else was I? Yeah, I don't know. Like, what would you say about William Gibson? Like, where's he at? What's the stuff on the horizon for the stuff he's associated with, or is he just kind of like in limbo at the moment?
Well, he's like 75.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I think he lives in Canada. I think he's a Canadian citizen now.
Oh, is okay.
He was, or I don't know. Yeah, I mean, he's from. I don't know. He's one of those guys that like moved around a lot. I think he's from like South Carolina, but I believe.
Yeah, in that video, you're like, anytime you see an old person, it's like, oh, and he's got kind of weird bad teeth, but I guess that's a British thing. And he's old, so what do you expect? But it's like you expect him to be like this energetic facts talker, but he's 75, and it didn't seem like he was gone, but he seemed like he was like super considerate of the words he spoke, which just kind of seemed almost frustrating for the the blazing mind that you imagine William Gibson has.
Well, think about his dialogue, though. Think about how he writes. It's like, yeah, this guy might be very contrite when he speaks because he's like, how efficiently can I talk? How much word salad can I cram into one complete sentence and get my idea out? And, Yeah, I mean that's like again, I've said the Sprawl trilogy's been optioned and failed several different times to make movies out of, and now it's getting to the point. It's like, oh, this is going to be like full Philip K. Dick, where we're just going to completely reimagine this. We're going to use the bones of this, but reimagine it into something really cool. Or the problem with his stuff is it's like it's already been done 1,000 times. So it's like,
Yeah.
how do we make this stand out from the crowd?
You think you just give it to Denis Villeneuve, or do you think he already did the Blade Runner, so it's no reason to go back there?
Yeah, well, I mean that's the problem with the William Gibson stuff was, and let's talk about the Sprawl trilogy. That's what I know the best is. Like I'm trying to imagine, like, yeah, that could be. I would say more give it to the people that did Westworld and let them make a series out of
Oh,
it.
okay.
So you can actually explain the world, why it is this way, and because you could do like a Blade Runner, like almost like, oh, we're gonna do alternate history. It's like, yeah, this is not, this is set in the, in the time of like, 2019 or 2015 or whenever a lot of that stuff happened, but it's like a different 2015 because different things happened and there was a world war, and and that always spawns, mass technological growth, or at least it did in the first two. Problem with the third one is it also like destroys habitational parts of the planet and disrupts electricity. So it'd have to be a small third world war, but one that spawns a lot of development. That's the only way I see the Sprawl trilogy working as a TV series, because it's so dated now in a lot of ways. It almost wouldn't
Yeah.
hold up as its own thing.
And then the nostalgia wouldn't carry it the day.
Yeah, well, it would as a like reimagined Westworld type thing,
Okay.
where we create like kind of an alt history of like, oh yeah, this is the Sprawl universe, uh, or we just do what Westworld, we just move it forward in time where it's just overlaid on our world, which is actually kind of what William Gibson did anyway. It's just like, it's New York City, it's still a hellhole, but you've got cybernetics.
Well, if you like what you heard, and how can it, you can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. There you can. We have listener support where you can support us on a monthly stipend of either 99 cents, 4.99, or 9.99 and cancel anytime. You can rate our podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. You can rate us whatever you want. But the only thing the algorithm listens to is the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. Not sure if William Gibson would agree, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Do we ever really control the algorithm? Um, you can find us at Twitter, at Facebook, or find us at Twitter at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us at Facebook, Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. You might have to click on the live tab. I think the video tab is all screwed up and all over the place. I believe, I don't know, I might be seeing different things because I own the page. So if you click on it, I think there's a live feed where usually it's in order of the most recent thing. But I don't know, weird stuff happens. And you can get t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/Greed Factory. So the Vero Effect Podcast, I'm Colin.
And I'm Nathan.
Goodbye, America.